Hello, welcome to one of the two commentary tracks on this Ghostbusters DVD. I feel like we're doing FM radio in the 1970s.
It really kicked in. You really have the vibe and tone. And
Thanks.
It's really
I feel good about this. Well, this is Paul Feig, director and one of the co-writer of this movie. And with me today is the amazing Katie Dippold.
Thank you. I requested to be introduced exactly as amazing Katie Dippold.
There you go, exactly.
Yeah.
We fulfilled that part of our contract, so that's good. Well, welcome to this commentary track. It is, as you will probably know, there is a second commentary track, which is most of my amazing department heads and everybody, but Katie Dippold was not available for that one. So here we are in New York. Doing our own commentary track.
Yes, we are.
We're going to talk you through the ins and outs of what happened on the set, some directing stuff, some writing stuff, all the dirt. It's all coming out, all the love, all the hate. And here we are. Interesting fact about Aldridge Mansion is it's actually at Boston University. It is their alumni house, I believe. I could be wrong, but it is a on-campus house. Now, Katie, you were the architect of this opening, because I had some other crazy idea for an opening in an old story about a guy getting electrocuted that we mercifully threw out. But what was your thoughts on this?
Well, we talked about also like just whatever made it felt like iconic New York and scary and spooky and old school. I feel like we wanted like an old school feel, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, I just saw, like, these kind of, like, museums throughout New York City, like, in the West Village and just all different areas where it's just old houses. Yeah. When I spoke, I seemed to have more of a historical knowledge in my vocabulary.
You're not an expert on the mansions?
I tend to say things like old stuff and spooky-like.
There you go. I'll be saying lots of things like that thing and that thing. Yeah. So that's my level of technical expertise. But I always loved that you came up with this idea of you know, the huckster tour guide where you think something spooky happens and then it's actually set up and then he gets burned by that.
Yeah. And also, like, I was always obsessed with, like, a Lizzie Borden type scary ghost. You know what I mean? Someone that killed people at one point.
Yeah.
I was very excited. You cast Zach, who is one of the funniest people in the entire world.
Oh, my God.
Great improviser.
Literally the best, I think the best improviser I've ever worked with, sort of across the board.
Every time he does anything, his improv is used every time, it seems.
Oh, yeah, totally. Yeah. Oh, no, totally. This is the third movie I've had him in. And each time, this is the first one he actually had, like, a lot of lines, because in The Heat and in Spy, literally, he had one line in The Heat, and I think he had one line in Spy, and each one of those he turned into a hilarious bit.
Yeah.
Where he improvised all this stuff, and it turned into this, you know, crowd-pleasing moment. So that was cool. But no, that was when we first put the script together. That was the very first thing I was like, okay, Zach Woods,
awesome.
Before any of the Ghostbusters were cast.
Mm-hmm.
And there it is again. Oh, so yeah, interesting, just the technical fact on the BU mansion is that the whole background is digital to make it look like it takes place in New York. If you look at that shot of the mansion, it's got a city skyline where it doesn't have that in Boston.
You know, I am always thrown by Hollywood trickery. On set, I'll see them like, oh, I wish that could look more like New York, and then I see it on the screen, and I'm like, oh, they did that. That's so great.
That's a weird thing I've never worked with this amount of digital effects before, and it is that thing of like, I hope it will look like New York.
Yeah.
And everybody on set, it's always Pete Travers, our amazing special effects supervisor. So he's, oh no, it'll be fine. And you're like, there's a moment where you're kind of like, okay, I hope everything's good.
Yeah.
But then it is. So there you go. That stunt where where Zach is thrown into the wall was actually shot a month later after we did this on a soundstage. There you go. And you would never know.
Nice.
But it's not really Zach. We didn't throw Zach into a wall as much as we wanted to.
This is one of my favorite stunts, coming up with the stairs. The stunt team was amazing.
Yeah, that is all practical. You know, this is all built by Mark Hawker and his team, who put together these amazing in-camera things. And they had built this thing, and it could go back together again. It took forever to put it back together, but that whole thing was this labyrinth of screws and wires and little explosions that took that thing down. And that whole set, none of that is digital. All the slime coming up through the floor, Jeff Sage and his team designed that so that it had lights underneath it and all this plexiglass, and then Mark Hawker and the gang rigged it so that we could push all this slime up through the floor. So, I mean, for me, I just wanted to be able to do as much as we could in camera was the thought.
And a real ghost.
Yes. Oh, yes.
We just used it.
Yeah,
like, just keep rolling.
That's right. Hey, now here's one of our extra scenes.
Oh.
Yes. I know, which I love and wish could have been in the movie. Problem with a movie is that it's just got to be not long.
Yeah.
This extended cut is 2 hours and 15 minutes. So it's actually 15 minutes longer than the theatrical. A little more than that, actually.
It always blows my mind how much stuff I think, like, I don't know how, I think every scene is so vital and can't possibly be cut. And then you see the cut down version, you're like, oh, no, it's fine.
Well, I get so hung up on, like, logic. And the emotional logic has to go from point to point to point to point. And so I think I was responsible for adding in a lot of stuff in the end of the second act that we ended up just taking it all out, just because I was so wanted to make sure that the friendship between Abby and Aaron was so, and it's you just kind of find out you can get away with less than you think you need.
Yeah,
it's just weird that the pacing of a movie is just hard to get right, because anything that slows it down, and sometimes you do have to sacrifice little bits of extra logic or little bits of extra emotional tissue, but that ends up hurting. If you keep it in, it ends up kind of hurting you down the line because it slows things down. So it's weird, but that's why it takes us just half a year to kind of edit and through test screenings and everything to find what we need and what we don't need.
Do you feel like, I always feel like I never know how it's going to all feel when it's all put together. Are you surprised by it, or do you generally have a sense of what it's going to feel like?
You think you have a sense, but that's always my thing whenever we're making a movie, because especially we always, in our movies, the dailies are always really good because we have such good people and they make it so funny through the improv and all that. So the studios are usually very happy with the dailies. But for me, I'm always like, okay, let's see. We got to see if it adds up. We got to see if it adds up, because that's the big thing. You don't know. I mean, that's why you work on a script so hard, and it should. But at the same time, there is just this thing you have. Sometimes you go like, I don't know if it's going to add up. But that's when you then have to find out what you need and what you don't need. Mm-hmm. Because if there's too much math, then it sags and falls apart.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Now, I wrote all that stuff on that whiteboard.
Yeah, I know. That was great. Well, you are also a math genius.
I was just feeling something, and I was like, let me just go to town here.
You're like the Mozart of mathematics. You solved some of the Earth's problems with that, but then unfortunately it was not all captured on film.
No, and I lost
it. Clean. It was like that movie where Sean Connery discovers the cure to cancer and then he loses it.
Oh, wait, which one was
Remember that? I forget the name of it. It was like something in the jungle. I remember going
Medicine Man or
Medicine
something?
Man. You're right. He's like, I found the cure to cancer and I lost it. So that's going to be our next reboot.
Yeah, that sounds like
our
a
next
plot
reboot. See who we can upset with that one. There's some scientist somewhere who said you ruined my college years by rebooting that. Ed Begley Jr., amazing. Lovely man. Such a great guy. I was lucky enough to work with Ed on an episode of Arrested Development many years ago, and we had such a good time. And every time I'd see him at top parties, he's like, let's work together. And I was like, I want to. So then here was the role.
He's great.
He's a great man. And then Charles Dance, who I didn't dare think we could get for this movie.
Oh my God, yeah.
He's the greatest.
Yeah. I was so intimidated to meet him, and he was so nice.
Yeah.
And even now I feel intimidated speaking his name.
Even talking over him.
Really nervous.
He's going to turn. Stop talking over me.
Yeah. How dare I? We just need to be quiet for this whole thing. I really think Kristen is magical. I feel like this character could have been just so straight and narrow, but she just makes everything so fun and lovely and fun.
No, she's real. I mean, obviously I worked with her on Bridesmaids, and she's just so amazing. But she's just, I know there's certain people in this world who their DNA is comedy. You know, it's like I knew Chris Farley, and like, I mean, Farley just was like, he existed for no other reason than to be funny. It's kind of just hardwired into him. And Kristen is so much that way, even though she's a great dramatic actress. She just walks into a room and she's just funny.
Yeah.
And I just really think she's great. And I know you really always had her in mind when you were.
I always hoped as a super
Aaron.
fan.
Yeah. I didn't think she was going to do it because she was so into doing drama now. That was kind of like, oh, she'll never do this. And then she had contacted me through my wife. My wife and her are close friends, and she contacted Lori one day, my wife, and said, hey, if there's ever any little role in Ghostbusters, I'd like to. So it's like, oh my God. So I had drinks with her, and it's just like, I mean, couldn't have jumped on that fast enough.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And we had fun putting together her costume. This was the big controversy over her, how to dress her at first, because I just liked, and she really was instrumental in kind of helping to find this look too, as was Jeff Curlin, our amazing costume designer. But I like the idea that she's straight-laced and a little more straight-laced than you would think she would be, but because I know some people were concerned that she might be too, I don't know, not cartoony, but just it's something nobody would wear. But I don't know, I always liked that was a thing for her, that she was so straight-laced, and we get to watch her.
Yeah, I'll totally admit I remember feeling nervous about it, but now I'm like, oh, I love it.
Yeah, it's just fun. I don't know. There's something about dressing in a plaid suit that makes me laugh. In the world's tiniest bow tie. And then there's our good friend Melissa McCarthy, who is fantastic. It was so fun to get the two of them back together.
Yeah.
Again, because I remember, I had already cast Melissa, and then we still hadn't cast the Aaron role, and when we decided, oh, maybe we should cast Kristen, I would just call, to make sure, see what the other actors think of something, and called Melissa and said, like, Dewey, would that be cool if I cast Kristen? She's like, nothing would make me happier. She's like, please tell me that you're going to do that. Please tell me you're not just, having a laugh. And then Kristen, the same thing. So, and the minute they get together on set.
You can see how much Melissa respects Kristen, and like it's really lovely to see.
Well, the most entertaining show in all the world is them when the cameras aren't rolling, because they sing all these songs and they just make each other laugh, and they're always doing crazy voices. I mean, they're never not trying to make each other laugh.
Yeah,
I don't think I've ever seen them even having a serious conversation, which is so great. And then, what can we say about?
I remember when you met Kate, and you were like, you were so sure that she had to be one of them, and you pushed for like something weird. And that was like the first word you went off with, just like, weird, outside the box. Yeah,
well, she, I know Kate from, my friend Steve Higgins, who shows up a little later in the movie, is one of the, people who runs Saturday Night Live, and because of him, I go to the show all the time because I'm just a super fan from when it first started, and got to know Kate at the after parties and was a fan of hers from the show, but would meet her, and she was so nice. I mean, she's like literally the nicest person you've ever met, and just come up to you and just like, she's like a cat almost. She kind of like rubs up against it. She's so sweet. She does it with everybody. She's she's just so great that way. But then when we had announced in the press that we were going to do this reboot, and do it with a female cast, I'd read some article that said from her that she, one of her dreams in life was to be a Ghostbuster. And so that's when I had her come in just to sit with us. And she's so funny when she came in, because she just was kind of pitching ways to go, and she was really going to do this kind of like guyish thing where she would sit in the chair and she just kind of put her like feet up on the table with her legs kind of spread over and just doing this like, yeah, and I'd kind of like, just be like harassing everybody, and her energy was so funny. There was like, she's got to be in this. She's got to do it.
Oh, she's amazing. She's a genius.
She's so great. And then what I do when I'm putting a movie together is I like to, we'll do our improv sessions and rehearsals that we do with the cast, like a month out, so for our rewrites and stuff. But then as we got closer, I wanted to kind of sit with each person and each actor and just kind of talk about their character and see what their ideas was. And Kate was very sweet because she had never really done a big role like this in a movie before and was kind of nervous. And so I said, well, we'll do like a session. So we got this a room somewhere and started to read through the script, but her character didn't have big speeches or anything. So we first started reading, during a rehearsal. So I'm like reading all these lines, and then she'd interject like, "Yes," or "Okay." I was like, "Okay, this isn't working," And also she was kind of like, at one point she was doing it kind of like, who's the Jane Lynch? It's kind of like Jane Lynch, and she was doing like Hillary Clinton, and I was like, let's try something different. So basically sat down and I recorded it, and there was videotape of it somewhere. Did like an hour just interviewing her as Holtzman. Like, so where are you from? Tell me about your family. And she was so insanely funny, and it was so weird. I think I gave you that transcript. Yeah, that's right. And it's just weird. The weirdest ideas about she had, left home when she was 12, and she was working as a con artist in the Andes, and it just got weirder and weirder. And that was when I went, okay, we found her character. Do
you remember us when she emailed us a list of just tidbits about Holtzman? Yeah. And it was like the most heartbreaking list I've ever read. Like, I think a couple of things even made me messed up. It's like, oh.
I know. She's been through it. No, she's just so inventive. Yeah. And her hair, she designed her hair. I know there's a lot of speculation among super Ghostbusters fans that it was modeled on the cartoon version of Egon, and I'd like to say it was, but it really wasn't, because I went into the hair trailer one day, and the first day, and she was working with her hair person and doing that kind of pompadour, and I was like, that's cool, and that was it. I mean, it was that easy. Yeah. Her look was there, because it's so fun to let the actors themselves kind of find their looks and set their looks, because they're the ones, you being an actor yourself, you have to inhabit that character.
Wondering when we were going to discuss an actor.
Well, that's coming up, but we will talk about how you prepped and found the character of the real estate lady.
When I just started at this point.
You should. It's a technical thing. This was a very hard scene to manage in post because the sun kept coming in and out. So when you watch this in beautiful HD, you'll see that sometimes the background behind the ladies is very bright, and other times it's not. So there you go. More digital trickery. And yet not.
He died many years ago. Me and my old office mate at Mad TV, Guy Stevenson, if we didn't know how to end a sketch, we would just throw on, he died 3 years ago. And the first time we did it, people laughed. The second time, people were like, I can't believe they did it again. And the third time. And then the fourth time, just silence. And then we still tried it a fifth time.
Well, see, but they go to the 10th or the 11th. Yeah. It's like Homer stepping on the rake. You do it enough times.
We never reached the point where we got them back, though.
You just lost them for you. Yeah. I love that joke. That's such that is the epitome of a Katie Dipple joke.
It is my soul, really is.
But it always gets a giant laugh, so it's great.
Tell us what it's like to walk around in those shoes all day. It's not fun.
Whose was the tiny bow tie joke? Someone asked me that recently.
That was Kate. Yeah, that's a Kate McKinnon. I know, it really makes me laugh.
I love that shot of the slime.
Yeah, I know it's so. It's always disturbing that she touches the slime.
Yes.
Yes.
This is one of my favorite moments, too, that you got here.
Oh, thanks. Well, this is funny because originally we just kind of thought she was just going to be standing there, and then we'd cut away and we'd come back and the door would just be open. I remember when we were about to shoot, it was like, maybe we can creak it open. And so, again, Mark Hawker and his amazing on-set effects guys rigged up some fishing line. It sounds simple, but it was really kind of at the last minute, just like the way they pulled it. And actually, that when it creaks, that's actually the real sound it made.
Oh,
which makes me laugh.
Yeah.
And this location was pretty cool. This was it's the first, I think it's the first house made out of concrete, or the first mansion made out of concrete. It's outside of Boston. And I'm sure I know it has a name, and I'm filled with facts. Look it up.
I love when you look to me, hoping I'll have the information.
It's like, please, Katie, please, yes. Just a blank stare.
Just a cat sitting here staring.
This was production-wise, although I'm sure I'll probably cover this. I gotta save some production stuff for the actual people that did it. So I won't talk about how this part of the set was actually on a soundstage, because we had to be able to float the actors through.
Yes. Here's a fun fact. Everyone always thinks the Pringles was just a product placement thing, but that we had that forever, that she's just eating during
Exactly. No, I know. And, a lot of people were accusing us of that, and so Pringles gets a free plug. But Pringles are just a funny food. It's a potato chip in a can.
It is. It's got the mustache, right?
Yes.
I mean,
I know, and one of Kate's. I think. Wait, did you write that joke or did Kate write it? The you try saying no to these salty parabolas.
I did not. That's all I know.
It might have been a Kate thing, but I remember there's a lot of people didn't like that joke because they thought it was too jokey. But now there are literally people whose handle on Twitter is salty parabolas. And people love the salty parabola joke. So there you go. Because the other joke we had was once you pop.
Yes, that's right.
Oh, yes! She's getting away, come on! Hurry! Get it! Where'd it go? Where'd it go? No!
So Kristen and the slime,
Bobby, what just happened?
the poor thing.
Oh my God.
Well, one of the last things we shot was when she gets blasted with the slime inside the mansion. If you remember, the first time we did it, it came out too low and it hit her in the chest, and then it went up to her face.
Oh.
And then it got her all dirty, all slimy, but then it was like, but the joke is that it hits her in the face, not the chest. And so I'm like, well, how long will it take to reset, Kristen? They said about 2 hours. It's like, well, okay, I'm sorry, Kristen. So she went and reset, and then I was kind of everybody like, okay, you got to get this right. I can't do this to her again. So they got it all set, and they had it, so it was set to hit her in the head, and it did, but it hit her in the head so hard, it missed her face first, and it went in onto her head, and it knocked her wig off, and then soaked her. But then I was like, I can't make her do it again.
Yeah.
So we were able to piece together the two, and then digitally we added a little extra to hit her in the face first. So it's a weird mix.
Yeah.
Now here in the extended cut is the Walk of Shame, which
is this not in the theatrical version?
oh wait, this is the longer one with Phil.
Oh right.
Yes.
Yeah.
There we go.
I always like this bit.
Looking at that chart.
The amazing Justin Kirk, who was so great, very kind of him to loan his talents to us. And now that means that we can't use this when they do the theatrical one because we've talked about Justin.
Oh, right. Yeah.
But you can use them in the extended. So there's just so much to contend with.
I hope you're happy.
As is just this joke.
Oh, yeah.
Got me fired.
I just like the idea of her almost killing somebody with a bomb, which was that was your joke.
There's always like a running thing of like they're on the brinks of New York City being disintegrated because of Holtzman.
So many different kinds of acids.
Aaron, we're sorry that you lost your job, but I mean, there is kind of a glass is half full aspect of it. I mean, we saw a real ghost, and she was beautiful.
This was one of our places where we took a little revenge on the internet. We had it more. I had written something in front of the theater later where, remember, like a mean nerd walked past and was like, "Hey, nice vacuum cleaners on your back, ladies." And then Patty shoots him in the butt with the and sets his pants on fire. Right. But then it was I think you wrote this. This was one of the lines you wrote. The "Ain't no bitches gonna hunt no go."
No, that wasn't me. I had the one before that, which is just I want to slap them with this dick.
Well, yeah, that was in the script.
Ain't no bitches gonna. I think that was in all.
I'm trying to think who was there that day. I remember I was handed a giant stack of Post-it notes, and I just kept putting different ones on the screen without telling Kristen. And so each time she had never seen them before. So then, especially with that one, "Ain't no bitches gonna hunt no ghosts." She just said it, and I remember the minute I heard it, going, "Okay, well that's our revenge. Now we don't have to shoot a guy in the ass with a proton gun." And one of my cameos was just played, which is I'm the voice of the Ghost Jumpers.
Oh.
Tonight on Ghost Jumpers. I literally decided to do a tribute to the guy who used to be the voice of ABC in the 80s.
Oh, that's
Remember
great.
that? It was like that guy, tonight on Starsky and Hutch.
Please keep that for the rest of the commentary.
I'm going to do it like that. Yeah. I'll be like, then I could be Don LaFontaine, who was in a world. I can't do that voice. And now here's the great Steve Higgins. And one of the interesting things is, it's called the Higgins Institute. Had nothing to do with the fact that we cast Steve Higgins.
That's right.
It was called the Higgins Institute in the very first draft of the script.
Yes.
And then I was like, hey, Steve Higgins would be really funny in this role. And now I saw some internet thing did all the inside jokes, and one of them was that we called it after Steve. I want to write them go like, no, it's just coincidence.
Yeah. I love the set design for this so much. The seashells and every little detail of this guy's lame office is my favorite.
It all says that he doesn't want to be there. It's all about fishing.
He did an awesome job.
Oh, and a little for comedy fans, his name is Thomas Shanks, which was in the old SCTV, John Candy, his mayor character was Mayor Tommy Shanks.
Oh, I did not realize that.
There you go. That is some major comedy nerdery. And that whole thing with Steve doing the flipping off, that's a bit that Steve has been doing since I've known him. We've been friends since the mid '80s when we were all stand-up comedians, and he could do these long runs of how to give somebody the finger that were the funniest thing I've ever seen. And so when we were on the set, it wasn't in the script, that thing, and then just as we were doing all that scene so long, I forget if he brought it up or I brought it up or whatever, but let's do your thing where you flip somebody off, and it's an extra somewhere on the DVD or on one of the versions of extras where we have the entire run, because it's 2.5 minutes long of him doing every possible way to flip somebody off, and it just makes me cry with laughter. I might be one of the few, but it just absolutely kills me. But I will tell you that we had the studio. There was a lot of people didn't want that in because they were worried it was going to kind of scare off kids and parents and all that. But
and my thing
we
is
kept it in.
Yeah, my thing is the same with the queef joke. I just feel like the original was so fun when it did something that just pushed that edge of something I shouldn't see. I don't know. I always feel like you just needed a couple of things. I was like, wait a second, I don't know, that's just the fun of being.
We need some off-color jokes, exactly. I mean, this is truth be told, this was a hard movie to kind of find the tone for, because you and I like R-rated comedy because we like our humor to be more honest, if you will, and people swear and make dirty jokes and all that. But very early on, I'm like, okay, this movie is clearly, something that the whole family could like. That made me laugh, though, because when I first signed on, I got all these, comments came over the internet of because since I'm known for doing R-rated comedy, is like, please make sure you make it family friendly like the original. And if you watch the original,
I know
they swear constantly, they smoke constantly, and then there's fellatio from a ghost. So people remember what they want to remember. But we're actually much cleaner than the original.
I know. I would have loved to have been able to swear a lot in this.
I know. That's you and I both. And we have the tags. Nobody was better at swearing than the amazing, there she is, Leslie Jones. Now, my backstory with Leslie was I had never worked with Leslie, and I hadn't actually even kind of seen her comedy. And right when we were in the middle of trying to figure out the cast, I was watching Saturday Night Live with my wife, Lori. And Leslie came on Weekend Update to do one of her bits, and I didn't know she was doing any on camera. I think it might have been the first time she did on camera on there, because I knew she'd come on as a writer. And just going like, who? I remember saying to Lori, like 15 seconds in, like, who is that? And by the end of the thing, going like, she is so in this movie. Like that was probably the fastest casting decision I made on this whole film. And so then when I was in New York, met with her and I had drinks with her, and it was ironically it was the day that she found out that she was going to be made a cast member on Saturday Night Live, and we discovered we both started in stand-up in the mid-'80s, right at the same time, but we just had never worked in the same clubs or anything. And we really bonded over that, having been stand-ups, and then we just were like the best of friends when we left that place.
Yeah.
And she was in.
I remember how excited you were about her, and I'm so grateful for that. She's really awesome.
Yeah. And then our good friend
Neil
Casey. Now you've known Neil. It's because of you I know Neil, actually.
I've known him forever. We came up together at UCB. I think he's like, I think he's like the rare. I think he's truly like the next big thing. I think. Amazing.
He's so. And UCB is the Upright Citizens Brigade, a comedy training slash theater. Started in New York and then. In LA, I felt like I had to give it
Thank you.
a footnote. I'm like one of those reporters on NPR. What Katie Dippold means is the. And then speaking of Katie Dippold,
who is this?
Who's this talented young lady?
I thank you first of all for being the kindest person to put me in the movie, but also I didn't realize how hard it was to get alts. I don't know what happened to me. I felt so frozen and panicked. I don't know if it's being in the headquarters set and then with Kristen there and then
you were great. I saddled you. I tried to get you. I don't even think we pulled this for the DVD or anything, but we had this whole speech about that I forced you to do. That I know you clearly hated. About like this what was it? This firehouse. It was.
About them trying to reboot it.
Yeah. They tried to reboot it a few times. They tried to remodel it a few times, but ended up doing. So it was a whole. Can't believe that didn't make the movie.
No.
But now, what's better than letting Kate McKinnon do her dance? I will tell you, Kate. At first, she was like, "I don't know if I can dance to this because I hate that song."
Oh no! Really?
Yeah. And I was like, look, it's a great song that everybody has memories of. It was never my favorite song either, but I said, it's so funny that you would be dancing to this song. And you were the one that wrote it into this.
So much.
I'm gonna let you and Kate fight that out.
I know. I remember her talking about doing more of like a hip hop song, but I feel like the song was just so weird. Like, you know what I mean?
It's
like,
the perfect song for her to do this too, because it's just so. It's not what you think Holtzman would listen to, which makes me laugh.
You won't always be surprised by Holtzman's taste.
Well, I guess now we know why so many people are calling.
Oh, and then this means that we're about to meet another cast member.
Mm-hmm.
There he is. Poor guy. Someday he'll fit into his looks.
We're rooting for him.
Yeah, exactly. The nicest guy in the world, who I still can't believe is in the movie.
I know.
I mean, the backstory on Chris Hemsworth is that we have the same agent, and we were putting this together. My agent said, Brian Lord, amazing, great. I keep calling everybody amazing because everybody I work with is amazing. So there you go. So you should still feel honored that I called you amazing. The only person I don't refer to amazing is myself.
I got this coffee earlier. The barista, amazing.
Oh, yeah, amazing. Yeah, everything we touch is amazing. You should know that. No, but he said that Chris was interested in possibly doing something in Ghostbusters if we had something for him, and I think, did we get the news at the same time? Because I have a weird memory of you and I kind of going like, oh my God, if we could have Chris be their receptionist.
That sounds familiar, that excitement, yeah.
But I didn't know if we could get him, and then we got him. So it was pretty cool.
I just love that he said yes. Like, I love that he was like, yeah, I'll play the secretary.
Yeah.
Like, he's awesome.
He's so good. And this was his. I mean, the first scene that he did on camera was the one previous to this where he comes in, but this was the first one where he actually got to kind of improvise.
Mm-hmm.
And the backstory on Chris in this whole thing was he came to my room the night before we started shooting, and he was really nervous. He's like, look, they're so funny, and I know you do a lot of improv, and I don't do that. I'm not sure how, and I'm just really worried. I was like, Chris, look, none of us are expecting you to improvise. Trust me. We're going to write a ton of jokes. We'll be there. We'll be feeding you stuff. You don't even have to worry about anything. So he gets here and he starts improvising. This thing with the no glass in the lens, the whole story on this was when he came in that first scene, he had glass in the lenses, and we were getting all crazy reflections of everything, of the lights and the crew. And so when we were coming into this scene, I was like, oh my God, I said, just take the glass out. No one will know. And then they just started screwing around with this, and I think he did it first as a joke, and then it turned out that it was a gag that, is it something, it's something that Melissa
called out?
Yeah, I think it was somebody she worked with at Groundlings. It was a gag they had done, she and he had done in some sketch they did, and so they started joking around with Chris about it, and then on camera, then they started playing with that, and then that was all kind of this weird ad-lib thing that came out, and then we cut together. As was Mike Hatt.
Yeah.
That was his improv was that it was, no, his name is Mike Hatt. Because I think we had fed in something about like, oh, ask if you can bring your cat to work.
Right, right.
And then when he did the Mike Hatt, I was just like, oh my God. And then it turned into Michael Hatt.
I remember there was also like just one 20-minute version of this scene. I just remember the crew laughing so hard at everything they were doing.
Yeah, well, it is, we did put that together for the DVD. It's about,
good.
I think it's 13 or 14 minutes long.
Oh, that's great.
It's called The Longest Job Interview Ever. So, yeah, so lots of fun stuff on there. Just so you know, the ghost with the giant boobs was drawn by me. That was
Did you actually draw it too?
Yeah, well, I know. Jeff and Sage came over because we were trying to figure out, and they had a bunch of things they'd mocked up. I said, no, it should look like this. I said, it's not this, but it should look like this. And I drew that really terrible drawing. I said, you guys can make this better. And they sent it back, and it was just...
That's awesome.
So there you go. So,
that's great.
And I've seen people on the interview, on the internet, on the interview, as they call it, the interweb, that made T-shirts with that on it. So.
Oh, that's fun.
So there you go.
When Chris says with the hot dog over the house, and he said it's, in his interpretation, it's a ghost holding a hot dog. Was that something he improvised, or did you give him that on set? Do you remember?
I think that might have been him. I don't know. This was 5 hours of improv. I forget. Yeah. I remember writing the hot dog over the house joke.
I love that so much. Yeah, that was one of my favorites.
Just so dumb. Well, because you had written all the stuff about just the logos thing, which I thought that was such a funny thing when I read that first draft of that scene. And then
hot dog over the house was my favorite.
So I like 7-Eleven, and that joke doesn't make any sense because he goes, what, 711? But the logo just says 7 and the word 11. So it's the most tortured joke that really doesn't work.
No.
And then it just turned into mayhem by this point when we were like, I think he came up with the thing. It's the jokes in our movies have so many different parents.
I know. My other favorite thing he did in that scene was when he saw the capacity sign for fire safety, and it said, like, what did it say, like 26 or something?
Yeah, and he counted all of them and goes, okay, we're good. And, we had that in for a long time, but the problem was the angle that I had shot that, because that was just him kind of roaming around the set. You couldn't quite read the numbers, but I still kind of go like, I kind of miss it. Yeah. We'll put it back. And when he tripped going out, that was just him actually tripping. So,
oh, good.
Yeah. Going back to Freaks and Geeks, on that show, everybody would always go, anytime they tripped or fell or dropped something, they'd always look at me and go, like, you're going to use that in the show, right? I said, oh, yes. Nothing makes me happier than when somebody screws something up on a set.
This set always blew my mind. This was the first set I saw when I came onto stage. Because usually, like, every time we do something, like, I never get there till, like, right before, and so I haven't seen the development of anything, so my mind is always blown. And I remember seeing this set with the Ghostbusters logo on the wall and welling up.
It was crazy. I mean, again, the amazing, and truly amazing Jeff Sage.
Yeah, he's...
Oh, I just had a coffee burp. That's how much I love
Can we loop
Jefferson
that
Sage. Can we make that happen? That's right. We'll do a dub smash. We had to design this set because we originally, were you with us when we scouted an actual shut-down subway tunnel in Boston?
Yes.
Remember that?
Yes.
And it was this offshoot line. And we walked all the way down it with all these flashlights, and it was crazy. It was like an old-timey thing. And so I was like, we're going to shoot down here. And, of course, everybody's like, you're crazy. Like, you're going to make them fall down. You're going to have all this stuff going on. We got to rig this. It's not going to happen. So I was like, but it looks so real. So Jeff went and kind of recreated that look on the set and built this thing that has some green screen extension on it that we will talk about on the other the technical thing. But this part of the tracks, which coming up right now in this shot right here, they built this, and they literally laid these rails the way that you lay actual railroad lines, where these are actual railroad kind of, whatever they're called, not ties, but the rails themselves. And they have to, like, slowly kind of pull them with this big machine to put the bend, and then they put the actual, spikes in. So they really built this the way that you would build. You could run a subway car down this whole thing.
So cool.
And I just remember, when Jeff was showing it to us the first time, and he works with the greatest set decorator ever, Leslie Pope, who went and found all this old railroad and subway equipment and decorated this whole thing. I mean, that was so cool, this set, and it's made life so easy. If we had to shoot in that actual tunnel, it would have been the biggest nightmare.
Oh my God, I can't imagine.
Yeah, because we had cranes and rigs and stuff, and it would have been terrible.
This was like a big thing for us, was showing them figuring out how to use the equipment and like treating it like a real.
Yeah. Well, it was always your idea to watch the development of the equipment, which I love. I love that. But it's because the original one, they just kind of already had the proton packs, which was cool. Mm-hmm. But the idea that you came up with this thing, that the first one is the giant thing on wheels. They got to roll around.
Right, and the neck bracing and.
Yeah, which is so funny. I mean, that's some classic Dippold right there. This is fun. This is one of the I feel like we shot this scene pretty early on.
Yeah.
And this was the first scene that Kate really got to kind of go on a whole thing.
Yeah.
And really kind of found her character. We had the longest takes of her, the machine just kind of spewing out all this tech speak. And
the thing where she says, do you see the eyes? Mm-hmm. Was because I kept having night terrors for a while last year, and Drew woke up to me sitting up in bed staring at the closet, and I said, do you see the eyes?
Oh, no.
He's just like, what?
And then you just laid back down and went to bed?
Yes.
Why did you have night terrors? You suffered from night terrors a lot?
Yeah, I haven't had it in a while, but there was like a year where I kept waking up and just the most terror. I woke up thinking someone broke in the house. I could fill up the rest of this commentary with my night terrors, but I'm going to stop.
Let's do it. Well, I mean, honestly, but this is honestly the math that kind of brought this whole movie together, because when I kind of had the idea, when I was being pitched by Sony and Amy Pascal to do this, when I finally went, oh wait, if I can do it with all the funny women I know, that'd be so cool. And Kate, Jessie Henderson, my producing partner.
Oh, wonderful Jessie Henderson.
Amazing. She is truly amazing. We're going down to Comic-Con, and I said, Amy Pascal called me in the car, because I called my agent and said, like, I have an idea. Pascal called me like 15 seconds later, like, here, you have an idea. So I said, reboot it with this female cast. And she's like, I love it, let's do it. And then I remember turning to Jessie and saying, like, oh, who's got to write this with me is Katie. And she said, well, Katie's going to be at Comic-Con, actually. I was like, what? So this weird kismet thing. But because you love scary movies and ghost stories. Yes. and all that. And even when we were going to do The Heat 2, we got hung up on the idea of doing like a really scary comedy.
Yeah.
And yeah.
And also, like, it's so hard to get a horror comedy made today, let alone on a big budget, like, epic way. So I don't know, this was the most exciting thing to me.
No, it was so fun. But I don't like scary movies. I'm not a fan of them. But it's fun to make a scary movie because I know it's going to happen. That's what I don't like about scary movies. It's always that, like, something jumps out and then I lose, then I get scared.
And for watching a scary movie at home, my mom always ends up just playing solitaire on the computer in the background every single time.
Yeah. Well, that's my wife, Laura. Anytime we're watching anything with any sort of tension whatsoever, and it can be like the least amount of tension ever, she's like, oh, she'll either put her head in her hands or she'll leave the room. And I just go, as a director, it's so frustrating for me for you to not watch this because we work so hard to create that tension. She's like, I can't take it. So, okay. I guess that's me in a really scary movie.
Yeah.
Well, I always think movies are going to be scarier than they are, though. Like when I was a kid, when we'd go to like the amusement park and there was like the haunted house ride. I would imagine it would be so terrifying that I would not go in it. And then like my cousin would usually drag me in, and when I get inside, I go like, oh, that's not so scary. So my image of what was going to happen.
Yeah, that was just a couple months ago.
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah. How dare you tell that?
What's this place called again?
Conductors of the Metaphysical Examination.
Got it.
I feel like the original version of him was a little bit more of a jerk. You're really more apathetic.
He was just the guy that answered an ad on Craigslist.
And and just wanted to go on his auditions, and that was it.
Well, that was a funny thing because I think even Chris came in kind of intending to play that, but he's such a lovely, sweet guy that just started to become fun. And we actually didn't write him being that dumb, but then it just kind of started happening because he improvised so funny as like a guy who was kind of not understanding things.
Yeah,
that it just morphed.
Yeah, totally. I think also, if I remember correctly, I remember seeing an article that was wrong. That was like something about the Kevin character being developed more because it's Chris Hemsworth, like a big star demanding it. But it's like at that point we only had like 5 lines for Kevin. Like, no, that's on us.
Exactly. He was just nice and came in. You know, all I remember just saying to him was like, Chris, you're going to be in scenes that you don't even think you're going to be in. So just come and play. It was hard though. We only had him for 2 weeks, I think. Mm-hmm. And we had already been shooting for at least 6 weeks. And it was weird, because our cast was so working as one and so bonded that I'm always nervous, like when a new actor comes in, because you just don't know. Sometimes they come in and upset the rhythm, and he slid in so amazingly, and they fell in love with him so fast, as did we all.
Yeah, and Kristen improvised all that stuff, like that scene when she's staring at him when he walks in.
Yeah.
Like, that's so funny.
Well, we didn't have anything in the script where anybody's in love with him, just because he's originally written as sort of, we just figured we were going to hire one of our comedian friends to play that role.
Right.
But she's so good at just, it's that energy of being nervous and being into somebody. It's really funny.
This is the extended cut, right?
This is the extended cut because that is Mrs. Patmore from Downton Abbey. Yes, exactly. Yeah, Leslie she's another great talent who I can't believe lent herself to us to do this really goofy role. She's great.
No.
But yeah, this is the thing. Why we lost some of these Rowan scenes is just we found that anytime, because Neil's so funny, but anytime Neil was being funny, it for some reason was taking the danger out of the character, which was really a bummer because Neil's so great, and we ended up just kind of making him threatening in the actual theatrical version.
Yeah.
But he's so funny when he does all this other stuff.
He was a real crew favorite. I remember.
Yeah, and he was also one of the stars of my failed but fantastic Yahoo series, Other Space, where that's the first time I got to work with him as an actor, and he's just amazingly funny and so talented and so inventive. So, God bless you, Neil Casey.
Based on the results of the subway field test, the one where Umaril was killed, remember? I remember.
Now we watch the next phase of the proton pack.
Oh, yes. You had a real goal of making everything as real as possible, which was a wonderful goal.
Hey.
And, difficult one.
Well, it's difficult when it's fake science, but then we had our amazing, I'm just going to say amazing about everything, because he was amazing. MIT. James, yes, who was great. Consultant. And, all right, here, I'm going to admit, right here, this is a additional photography scene. I'm not going to hold back. I'm going to tell you guys everything. No, this is when we had the whole movie put together and we've been through several test screenings. We just found there was a couple of places where we felt like we needed a little extra comedic boost, and so decided to do the testing thing. I think you wrote this one.
This was Melissa's pitch. I wrote up a version. I can't remember which one now. It's the only thing.
Yeah, we shot this in an alley in a rat-infested alley.
Oh my God!
In Los Angeles.
Right. Oh.
This was terrible. I mean, literally, as we were doing takes, I was sitting. Rats were running under my chair.
Oh.
And the only thing I get weird about in life is rats.
Yeah.
I think I might have ruined one take just going like, I may have shrieked.
Harold Ramis's son is about to run by.
There he is.
His family is amazing, and his wife Erica, they're such a kind, lovely, awesome family that came to visit set. And
so supportive of this project from day one, and and it was fun to put that little tribute to Harold back outside of Kristen's office back in the beginning. And there, one of our corporate sponsors that actually did pay money to be in the movie, Papa John's. But I love this scene because it's just so nice to kind of learn their backstory, and I always love this speech about seeing a ghost, which when you first wrote this speech, it was also, remember, it was even more.
There's a terrifying
scary.
Nana thing.
Yes.
We had a runner where she would wake up at night, like I think like the night terrors, and see this old lady coughing blood up.
Yeah, like fall towards her and blood would fall from her mouth onto her.
Family friendly.
There you go. Which we recorded. We actually have all that,
Yeah.
but we kind of trimmed it down for.
Yeah.
Every night.
It's that weird math to try and figure out like how much do we need, what's too much.
Yeah.
And there was something almost scarier in execution because Kristen's so great at delivering the speech. It was just there staring at her.
Mm-hmm.
Just sounds kind of
Yeah.
horrifying, and but I just love that this whole that she was not believed. I mean, her character is so much about seeking legitimacy
Yeah.
and validity, and we had a lot more of that in the script, and that we in our first cuts of the movie that we ended up kind of paring back because it was just too much in execution. But.
Right.
I wish we still had this presentation.
It was important. I love that they're eating pizza here, though, for the record, because it's like the opposite of them eating yogurt or drinking Cosmos.
Yeah, exactly. We originally had them drinking beer too.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think we weren't allowed to. Oh, yeah, we weren't allowed to have them drinking beer.
Yeah.
Just because that's what happens when you make a movie. Now, this is in the extended cut.
Oh, yes.
One of my favorites. This is very chopped down. There is an extra somewhere else that has the full dance that they did, full presentation, which.
And Melissa trying to do the worm, too, if I remember correctly.
That's all, the breakdancing, that's all. If you can find that, it's either on I don't know, all our extras are broken up all over various formats, so, but it's there somewhere. But when you watch the theatrical version, you'll notice that we had to make Melissa's sweater blue because it was really weird that we just came back and they were wearing the exact same sweater.
Oh, right. I was always, more
so.
Hollywood trickery that always fascinates me.
Exactly. And now Pat Kiernan, who, from my favorite TV station in the world, New York One. I have a place here in New York, and whenever we are doing this, we're doing this commentary from New York City.
Look at that.
And it's the only thing I ever have on my TV is New York One, and Pat's always on in the morning. And he's just a wonderful guy and a reassuring, comforting presence on the television. And then he gets to work with Bill Murray.
Yeah, I know.
Thank you, Pat. If you see something of true scientific interest in this video, that goes a long way to legitimize these Ghostbusters and everything they stand for.
A game changer.
I remember being so, waiting to the very last minute to know if Bill Murray was going to do the movie. And I couldn't enjoy this day because I was so scared something was going to happen to make it stop or some disaster or something.
Yes.
I was just sweating bullets in my chair.
No, you and I both, my friend. Yeah, because that's, it is, for those of you who don't know the stories of Bill Murray, he has no agent or lawyer or anything that he uses. And when you want to get him in something, you are given a number, and you call that number, and the phone rings, and it picks up, and it just goes beep, and then you just leave a message. And so I did that, and I was about 15 seconds into my message, and it went beep, and it just cut off. So I was like, okay, well, I don't even know if that went through. But fortunately, we had people on our crew, like Missy Imperato, our exec producer, one of our exec producers and line producer. Her husband is really close friends with Bill, and then Melissa had just worked with Bill, and Kristen knew Bill. So everybody was kind of giving him messages, and obviously Ivan was. And so I kept hearing, well, he hasn't said no, but we just didn't know until the day before. And just remember that day was just like, all right, there's, he's at the airport, and then he showed up,
Fun fact, Bill Murray kissed my mom once.
Really?
Did I ever tell you that?
No.
She went to see SNL in the 70s, and after the show, she waited outside when my dad was there and just said, like, I just want you to know I'm the biggest fan. I just think you're so great. And he just, like, kissed her on the lips.
Oh, my God, really?
Yeah. And, like, I grew up with that story. Yeah.
Did you tell him when he came to the set?
No. I was too nervous.
You should have brought your mom
yeah.
to the set, because he would be like, wait a minute. It's you.
There she is.
I've waited all this time. Oh. There's another deleted scene.
Oh, yeah.
I always love this scene, actually. This is one of my favorites. This little improv moment between Leslie and Melissa.
Mm-hmm.
It just makes me laugh. So this is like, just sums up their personalities, how fun they are, and the fact that how they make each other laugh.
Yeah.
When Leslie laughs at the end of this little run here, it's the most pure thing.
Yeah.
None of that's happening. It's rigid.
I remember it was your idea to see why they end up with the uniforms.
Yeah.
Just because she keeps getting slimed and seeing their fun. Yeah.
Well, we just had fun with the origin. I mean, you're the one that started it because you're the one that wrote the thing with the logo and the graffiti artist. And I just love the idea of like, yeah, let's have origin stories for everything that they use.
Yeah.
Which is, I think it's fun.
Woo!
Then the Ecto-1, the amazing. This will be a drinking game. Whenever I say amazing, take a shot and you'll be dead of alcohol poisoning by the end of this scene. This was all, and this was all built in Boston. The headquarters was actually it's a Chinese restaurant that's there. A hot pot restaurant that then we built the garage onto the side of this, and Jeff and his amazing team, there you go, take a shot, painted it and kind of reworked the whole thing. But I just love that it's a Chinese restaurant.
Yeah.
It was inspired by the fact that where I live in New York, there's a Chinese restaurant across from me that's next to a firehouse, and I was like, oh, because I remember we were kind of like, where should we have their headquarters? And it's like, let's put it in a Chinese restaurant.
Yeah, I love that. Because I don't know, that to me just feels very New York. I don't know. Just when I lived in New York, all I would do is eat Chinese food. So I always love that idea.
Yeah, no, I love it. And ironically, the only country we're not being released in is China.
Yeah, no.
So there you go.
There you go. Yay.
Yay, we did it again. We're just racking up the wins on this movie. And then we got our friend Mike McDonald is about to make his appearance.
Yes.
This whole scene takes place in the Wang Theater, which is a famous theater in Boston. And this is interesting because this went through many different machinations in the scripting process. Because the first version of it was in a little theater.
Yes. Where it's just them dealing with like a dramatic acting group and then just downstairs, like no show.
Right.
And then you wrote the Comic-Con version.
Right. Which thought would be fun because I had written another script years ago. It was an action thing, and it had this big action scene take place between these two spies and bad guys that happened at Comic-Con. I just love the idea that Comic-Con is the one place like you can walk in fully armed and everybody just thinks, oh, it's your costume, And so I just thought the idea of, because we were always trying to figure out like how can they keep having these ghost encounters and yet it could be proven to be fake.
Right.
And so the idea of having it happen at Comic-Con was like, yeah, of course. So if a ghost showed up, people would think it's that guy in a costume. But we just couldn't, production-wise, pull it off.
Yeah.
It was too hard. And also we just felt like, I love the geek community. It's been my home for my whole life. I didn't want to look like we were making fun of the geek world, And but then we wanted to have some energy, and then when we found the Wang Theater, we'll put it in here. But then originally we thought, there was a ballet one?
There's a ballet version. And then, but that's actually, and then you wanted a show element going on, which I thought was very wise. Because left to my own devices, every scene would just be in a dark tunnel or basement. So it's nice to have the upstairs, downstairs version, I feel like.
That's right. Well, what I in the middle of a movie, what you want is some kind of big, energetic scene. And as much as I was kind of worried, like, is it kind of hacky to do, a heavy metal concert? There's just something, like, the energy we can get out of, like, having a big concert. And again, it's another place where if a ghost came out, it'd go like, hey, cool, look at that cool special effects.
Right.
Everybody was alive.
This I love, the whole mannequin thing, which we have this amazing stunt woman who, was in a full leotard and kind of running around and doing all this. And then I still can't believe how they digitally just replaced her with this. This is the magic of special effects.
Hi.
It's full paranormal, transferal embodiment. Aaron, all of our theories
And these were actual
are true.
dressing rooms at the Wang Theater. Isn't that an exciting fact? These are actual rooms that we then redressed. This is the slow part of the commentary track. If you need to go to the bathroom, you can
I kept going back to that Wang Theater.
Now, this hallway was actually the Wang Theater, too. There was always supposed to be a shot from the front where they come running towards us, and we were going to have 3D beams shooting at us, but we ran out of time that day. So that's why it doesn't exist. And those actually weren't even the Ghostbusters running down the hall away from us. That was their stunt doubles. Because
I didn't even know that. Tricked by Hollywood yet again.
Yep, well done, us. But this was a very intense scene to shoot. This was, I think we shot this for 5 days or something.
I think those machines are making them stronger. That thing is super ionized.
It's super not benign. This music is so terrible, it's making them more angry. Play something gentle! Behold the power of the young age! We have summoned Satan himself!
And then that's Adam Ray, who is one of my regular players. Adam Ray is just one of the greatest comedic talents. First met him on The Heat.
Oh, yeah.
He played LeSoir.
That's right.
And he's just so funny to me because he's such a funny improviser. There's Eugene Cordero
Oh, yeah.
on the bass.
Yes. Eugene.
Sadly, all his lines are gone because we cut so much stuff out of this. I cut myself out of this scene.
You did?
Yes, I was the head of Thundergun Records, which I think I exist in some alt version scene somewhere on the DVD or your digital download.
You'll throw that cruel cutting fist down on yourself.
Will. Yep. I think I'm the first person I cut out of the movie. Mercifully so. But I left my voice in. I do 2 different voices in the movie. Which is,
Ghost Jumpers and
I'm also the guy who's mean to Neil Casey, to
that's
Rowan over the walkie-talkie.
That's right.
Because as opposed to giving an out-of-work actor a voice job, I'd rather just take 2 of them and use my exact same voice. So it's literally the cheapest possible way to do something in an otherwise very expensive movie.
Leslie is so fun in this.
She's so funny in this. And I got to say, I credit everybody who was an extra in our movie in Boston was great.
Yeah.
Because these kind of scenes are just deadly because you're always like, you get in the editing room, it's like, oh, there's one guy making a face. Oh, there's some guy doing something. Everybody was so good and funny in this.
The fact that there's not one person in that sea of people going, what? is amazing.
Well, it's also a testament to Artis Robinson, our great great AD. I almost said amazing AD, but I didn't want people to pass out from taking shots. And he's always on patrol for what he calls Elvises. You probably hear that on the set. Oh, you ever hear that?
No.
He'll go that. All right, we got an Elvis over. He sounds like Matthew McConaughey's father. He could be. He's from Texas, and he's like, all right, we got an Elvis. Got a couple of Elvises over there, and it means anybody who's like a bad acting extra is an Elvis, and they are immediately descended upon by the rest of the AD team and rushed out of the
Their
out of
throat
the shot.
is slit and dragged out.
They're never seen again. They're thrown under the pile. So I do credit Artist and his team for weeding them out.
It's really something.
But this was fun. This is the only time we actually catch a ghost in the movie.
That's right.
All the other ghosts we just destroy.
I know even if I was in the crowd, you would still see one person just smiling. Like I would be like, oh.
Well, there's one guy in the crowd who made a decision to just be so high that he can't react to anything. And I thought it was the funniest thing ever. But everybody else on the set was all upset, and they kept wanting to throw him off out of the shots. I said, like,
Yeah.
no, he's hilarious because he just would just stand there kind of like he was half falling asleep. I thought it was hilarious.
Oh, I never saw it.
Made me laugh. And then, believe it or not, we somehow got Ozzy Osbourne. My biggest regret is that we were trying to keep Ozzy so top secret that we kept him backstage, and then we waited until we dismissed the whole crowd before we did our bit with him. But the people in that crowd were real heavy metal fans. I mean, because they came, the way they were dressed and everything, they were the real deal.
Yeah.
And I regret to this day, if Ozzy would have walked out on stage, they would have lost their minds. It would have been the greatest gift to give them. But I was so paranoid about it leaking out.
Yeah.
So everybody who was there, I apologize.
Oh, that would have been really nice.
You should have seen it.
This
is a little bit of additional photography. This scene.
Yeah.
We just felt like we needed to check in on Rowan, and also we like the idea of seeding in the idea that Giant Rowan will turn into, he will.
That was your idea to see that, and I thought that was very smart.
Thank you.
Great dancers, this cast.
Yes.
Great dancers.
Oh yeah, they're so funny. The original song we're going to use for this was by Fat Man Scoop, but we couldn't clear it.
Oh, that's right.
Because songs, rap and hip-hop songs from the 80s and early 90s are almost impossible to clear legally because they contain so many samples that they didn't get permission for, that you literally have to license like 10 songs to. So, very sad. But I love this DMX song, so it worked out well.
Kristen's a great dancer in real life, but her funny bad dancing in movies is always
it's her mom. It's her
dance.
mom dancing. She bases especially that where she clicks her fingers together and points. She said that's mother dancing. So.
She's the queen of like specifics, just little tiny choices that are just goddamn delightful.
It just makes it so rich in comedy. I love this scene personally because I just love hearing Holtzman just spew out all this tech speak. And what's been so exciting is there's been so many mothers and girls and women who've said how important it was to them that to see, Holtzman be this scientist, and it got them excited about STEM and all that. And the nicest thing I saw was some woman wrote me that said if she had this movie when she was a kid, she would be an engineer now. And I was like, that's why this just makes me very happy to be able to portray these smart women like this.
Yeah.
Well done, Dippold.
I just more movies that grow. I don't know. I feel like I grew up to so many things that were just the goal is being a princess or marrying someone.
No. And characters are hypersexualized and all that, so it was really important to just treat these women like they're just working women and not put them in skin tight costumes.
That is the thing I am so grateful for your existence, is that I just feel like I don't think people realize how many other like directors still would have made it a slightly fitted costume. Like now I can notice is that when I see movies where females are like, quote, the strong, powerful character. And so I, as a person and human, that's my favorite thing about the movie, and thank you for that.
Oh, please, no. Thanks, Katie. I appreciate that.
Inside that thermos?
Speaking of looks, Bill Murray was very, very into the idea of basing the look of his character on Quentin Crisp. Quentin Crisp, who was he was an English writer and a raconteur. He was famous for writing a book called The Naked Civil Servant, which made him a bit of a gay icon. And so he actually had a kind of resurgence later in life as this lecturer and kind of celebrity. I remember as a kid watching him on TV all the time. He would be on talk shows and stuff. And I remember when Bill brought that up, he wanted to look like Quentin Crisp. Was like, cool, that's hilarious. So if you look up a picture of Quentin Crisp on the internet, you will see a hat very much like that.
Another inspiration for this was the James Randi $1 Million Challenge.
Yeah.
Of like when psychics are challenged to like prove yourself, and you will get $1 million if you can just go into a laboratory setting and actually test it and prove it, and it has not been done. So that was the main idea behind this guy.
Yeah, that was it. We shot that part of the speech too, because I love that too, because I'm a big skeptic, and yeah, the Randi Institute has this $1 million thing, but you have to be able to prove it in a controlled condition.
Right.
Yet to be done.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So there you go.
Maybe I'll do it.
Yeah, come on. Let's see. Just show this movie. There it is. Called a ghost. Bill was so great on this day too. I mean, it was such as a comedy director and a comedy nerd my whole life. When they say Bill Murray's going to show up on your set,
oh my God, it
was so nerve-wracking. I was just the whole day I was just terrified, and played it cool, but it was and he was so lovely. He just was just anything you want. He was just doing what the script said. It's like, oh, go off and give him jokes. He was coming up with his own jokes. He was so great. But I remember when he left, I just collapsed. I was so exhausted because I know you were flipped out too about whether he was going to disappear.
Yeah.
And then he was just great. And Toby Huss, my good friend, one of the funniest people on the planet, Mr. Toby Huss here, playing his version of a 40s cop.
Yeah.
Toby will always turn into a cop from the Little Rascals if you let him. It's like, say, what do you... He just makes me laugh so much.
Yeah, he was awesome. He's so mad at this SUV.
Yeah, exactly. He's always angry. And Matt and Michael are our guy. I still can't believe that Michael from The Wire is in our movie.
I know. I love these two.
Yeah, and then Andy Garcia.
This is my favorite running thing that there's a lot of different versions of that couldn't make it in, but every time they would improvise what their discussion was before the scene starts, it made me laugh so hard.
And that's only in the extended cut.
Really?
That little moment right there, yeah. And then here's the amazing Andy Garcia. Amazing,
Yeah.
Take a Shot. And the amazing Cecily Strong, who I love more than life itself.
Yeah, she's wonderful. They're both great. Now, if you don't call someone amazing,
yeah, they'll be like,
the people at home were like, oh, what's the beef there?
I know. Exactly. Oh, I've set myself up so much. Andy, I love. Andy, I've become friends with in real life a few years ago, and when we were trying to figure out who the mayor of New York should be, it was like, well, it's got to be Andy.
Yeah.
And Andy, what a lot of people don't know about Andy is he actually started in comedy.
I did not know
He was
that.
in an improv group in a sketch group when he first came out to LA, and then just turned out to be an amazing actor, and then went on to become. Does it count to take a shot if I say became an amazing actor, but I kind of used it not in
different drink.
here's the amazing. Yeah, okay. It was more like a cream de menthe, if you will. I love Cecily.
You always wanted this character for Cecily, before anything else. I remember you talk about Cecily, before any, Ghostbuster was planned. You always
I just wanted Cecily in this movie. We originally, I thought we tried to put this in the script and it just never worked, but that Aaron and her had gone to school together.
Oh, right, yeah.
Then she was mean to her back then, and now she's just mean to her still.
Yeah, that's right.
But it just didn't happen.
Yeah.
It's too much stuff to do. I love that moment with Kate.
I know.
Kate is, if you're a comedy director or a comedy editor, Kate is gold, because when you do Kate's close-up or shot, she just does so much odd, weird stuff that whenever we're putting the scene together, we're kind of like, oh, how do we bridge this? Well, let's take a look at Kate's take. And there's always something she's doing that's so fun to cut over and away to. So,
yeah.
Because in comedy, we're always looking for ways to pull out lines and paste stuff up. So we're always cutting around quite a bit to pull the air out, if you will.
Mm.
That's a secret to comedy editing, my friend, is pulling the air out. But sometimes you pull too much air out, it goes too fast, and you can't get a reaction or let it sink into the audience.
Editing is truly fascinating to me, how there can be a scene and one line can make a scene feel terrible or great. It's crazy how the smallest difference is.
Yeah, you become like a forensic scientist or a detective, because you have a scene, it works, or even it's honestly more like the cut of the whole movie, because you have these individual scenes and they're really funny on their own. But then you put them together and suddenly go like, wait, why is this on this scene so funny and now it's not funny anymore? And it's usually not something in the scene itself. It's usually something that's about 5 to 10 minutes before the scene that is a repeat, or it becomes something that you don't need to say again, but there's a funnier version of it in the later scene, but you've already, eaten up that topic earlier. So that's why we just have to do so much time when we're editing.
This is extended cut, too.
Yes, it is. This is always made me laugh. Just, especially Matt. Matt Walsh is one of the most...
he's the best.
He's just one of the best improv performers and a great actor, too.
Lovely human being.
Yeah, the nicest. But the fact that he just made this decision to run always made me laugh so much. And then it was just fun to have them not be in sync with unlocking the door, which we had the longest take. It's somewhere on the outtakes.
Yeah.
Where they just... I think I had them. They went on for about 10 minutes trying to unlock the door and get in sync. Which Michael's a great, really good improviser too. He was really good at keeping up with Matt and the gang. So he had to paint out a lot of Boston signage back there.
We're watching you.
Now the mayor said we could continue our work.
Here's another additional photography scene here. Shot again in the rat-infested alley. And because we felt like we needed a little extra blast of comedy in here, and B, since they pull all this extra weaponry out in the Times Square fight, we originally didn't set it up, and just felt like maybe it's more fun to kind of set it up and see it, and it's a good physical bit. And we like blowing stuff up.
I also thought, I don't know if you noticed this, but when we were shooting the movie, Kate would try so many different things.
Yeah.
And I feel like she had seen the movie by the time we did this reshoot. And so I feel like she was so locked into it was interesting. It was like a different kind of thing.
You're so right. And it was a good thing too, because this was like we had to shoot 2 of these scenes and then something else in one day, and it was like this was such a hard day. For me as a director, it was hard because we were in that crappy alley, and also we just didn't have time because we were going to lose Kate. Kate had to go back. She was going to fly. She had to fly back to Atlanta to do another movie.
Right.
So we're going to lose her like at 5 o'clock, and I had all these scenes. So I had to shoot this like a sitcom. I'm not proud of the way I shot this. I'm the first to admit it. We literally had to put up 3 cameras and shoot it like it was a sitcom, just so I could get all the stuff with Kate and them. And then there's some shots that actually have a fake Kate and fake cast.
Oh.
Yeah, but you'd never know it. See, there you go. And then we just like the idea of blowing up Benny's scooter.
Yeah.
Which we tried. We had all this stuff where we were trying to make. We had him being mean to them, and it just never worked because Karin Sony, the amazing, take a shot, Karin Sony, another one of the stars of Other Space, as well as in Deadpool, is one of the most inventive, funny, lovely people in the world, and since he plays Benny. But we had this whole thing where we wanted to kind of have him, being mean to the girls, and they blow up his scooter the first time.
Yes.
The first scene, it just never worked because Karin's too nice.
Yeah.
So we didn't buy him being mean. This is a little extended moment here too. With the breaking of the acid.
We sold the restaurant. Guys, we have no customers anyway. It's time to face the facts. The restaurant is not working.
He's upset about his slippers. Oh, not my slippers.
Why is he wearing slippers?
But it's so funny because now in the theatrical version, when he comes walking back out, it just looks like he was taking a nap.
Yeah.
But what you realize now when you watch this is that he actually burned his eyes with acid and somehow survived it.
Left. There you go. Stop when you hit something.
Oh, okay. Jesus. Good job. All right, I would like to remind everybody here that in a very short amount of time, we have seen multiple Class 4 malevolent acts.
There's something about putting together a mystery that's really cool.
Yeah.
And I just think this is a really... And Ley Lines was your idea.
Actually, fun fact, I remember I was trying to think of mythology, and Drew walked by. He's like, why are you looking into something with ley lines?
Really?
Yeah.
Nice.
I'm like, that became big.
Shout out to Drew.
Yes, that became a big part of the movie, just casually. Like, look at it.
What do we owe Drew?
A
lot.
Definite percentage.
There you go, exactly.
He got paid in hugs.
The best way to get paid in Hollywood.
And a wink.
Okay, what was
And then you sitting up in a night terror in the middle of the night, scaring them. This is fun for me as a director to do, because I knew I had to cover so much stuff, and I didn't want to get in just like single. So we kind of had the camera on this crane, and we just kind of kept pushing around and shooting these different combos of the scene, which I don't know. I like this scene.
It also, this is a real testament to you. Like, this was such a long exposition scene. I was always so scared how this was going to feel, but it looks really fun. I don't know. So I think.
No, I remember we were always really worried about this scene just because of that, because it's a lot of explanation and all. But the cast is so good. I mean, they sell this mumbo jumbo so well.
Yeah.
And Kristen Wiig can draw the straightest lines. That's her drawing those lines. Every time I watch her do that, I'm like, wow, that's the straightest line.
This was originally them going to see Rick Gale.
Yes.
The spiritual,
which we thought
friend.
would be Dan Aykroyd.
Yeah.
But then we just felt like, well, we want them to figure it out versus somebody else.
And it also felt like a whole long thing. At a point in the movie, you just wanted to get moving.
Mm-hmm.
That's another reason.
Yeah, no, we really wanted to move this thing along. Yeah, it's interesting doing comedy that's not goofy and try to keep it real. I mean, that's the tone I always like to try to walk, but it's an interesting tone. Everybody has to treat it dead serious, even if when it gets silly or goofy. But if you still want to have fun with it, so you need to make sure that it's fun people treating something serious, and but there's a lot of jokes that we can never use because they subvert the characters because they're just being too silly. The goal is to never have the audience go like, come on. Why would they do that? Why would they say that? And so many times you go, it was a joke, let's put it in, but no joke is more important than the characters.
Now, in my biggest weakness myself, it's so easy to do an undercut.
Right.
I have to constantly stop myself from, left to my own devices, the movie would end with some giant undercut.
No, but it's great. Well, actually, for the audience at home, explain undercut, because we live and die by that in this kind of comedy that we treat seriously.
Yeah, what is a good example of an undercut? If, someone giving, a character having a moving speech, but then
they fart.
Yes.
That's a bad undercut. Yes. That's a Feig undercut.
Annie Potts.
Yes. Here's a bit of trivia for any of you. Corvette Summer is one of my favorite movies, and Annie Potts was in it, and her name was Vanessa. So when you watch this in HD, look at her name tag. Her name in the scene is Vanessa. So that's a Corvette Summer nod. Also starred, who else was in that with Annie Potts?
I don't know.
Mark Hamill.
Ooh, the amazing Mark Hamill.
The amazing Mark Hamill. Take a drink. Take 2 drinks, because she and I both said it.
What was I going to say? Annie Potts, when she came to set, she was so lovely and wonderful. And I remember after she wrapped, we said goodbye, and she was so nice. But then, 2 minutes later, we walked by each other again, and it was one of those, I'll go, oh yeah, okay, bye. And then it happened 2 more times. For the final time, it was just silence.
You turn every nice moment into something else.
I know.
Somehow.
I know.
The power of dimple. This was such a great day when we were shooting with Neil, because he hadn't kind of gotten to do much yet, because we shot a lot of his solo stuff at the end of the film. And he just came in and just really took this speech and went with it. In the extended cut, we actually keep in the line where he says they're mostly dudes, which I find very funny.
Yeah, they're angry, they want revenge, they're mostly dudes.
Oh, you just said it right in sync with it.
Oh, really?
Look at that.
Oh,
nice.
God, I wish
really.
the audience could have just heard him say it. I'm sorry.
But he's just great. And, this was I said to Neil, just make this more violent. And he just improvised this whole thing about it.
Parents will be pestered in half, and pestered in half again, and pestered into the ground until their bloody, pulpy bodies are nothing but...
This is such a Neil scene.
Yes.
Neil is such a wordsmith. Because that was so fun in our show Other Space, because he was like the wordy alien character, and he would just go on these long tears of adding extra like verbiage to things, and it was so funny.
He's great.
But yeah, the first time I ever met him, he came to the set of The Heat.
To do punch-ups.
Yes,
yeah.
punch-ups in the disco scene.
He's my favorite, like, I just, his brain is amazing.
And he directed you in something?
He directed my one-woman murder mystery. I did at UCB, yeah.
Oh.
And then anytime he would have a suggestion, the way he would say it was so much funnier. And I was like, oh, I kind of wish...
You were playing me?
Yeah.
And he does a good death scene here, too. This is not easy to fake your own electrocution.
No.
I do love the design of this, everything. Jeff Sage and his team just designing that giant machine.
Yeah.
Just makes me very happy. It looks like something out of like Frankenstein. There's like, just wanted this whole movie to be kind of steampunk, because, you know, all the technology to be somewhere between steampunk and garage band. And so makes me very happy that... And Neil took a nice fall onto a metal grate.
He did.
Yeah, that was not an easy thing to do. Oh, sure, I could have made it, you know, padded or something.
Had this been his third movie, maybe.
Yeah,
maybe.
exactly. But guess what? No, your first movie, this is what you get. This is in the basement of a high school too. That was outside of Boston. It was their boiler room, and it was a cool location. There you go.
Let's talk
it's a
about
story
the
that went
Wang
nowhere.
Theater again.
Yeah, exactly. The Amazing Wang Theater.
Do you remember I don't think anything got changed more times than the bad guy plot line.
Yes.
We had, remember there's Anduk, the dark god, he was trying to bring back.
Yeah, that's right.
And then we switched it to him just wanting to bring back himself.
Right. Then at one point he was a real estate developer.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
That was another...
That was a little left turn we took for a couple of months.
Yep. I just have to say a couple things to the press. You know how that goes. So we just are going to fake...
Some people have said that they wish, you know, the villain was more villainous. To me, the scariest thing in the world is what one lone person who has a bad agenda can do. That to me is scarier than any ghost army. And so I personally would like to defend the character of Rowan, because I think there's something kind of great about one guy who's super smart and really has an evil agenda could possibly do.
And I remember you pointing out, like, he's just like the bad version of the Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
You know, which I thought was a really...
Well, so you could tip either way. When you're smart and you have technology, you can either use it for good or for evil.
I also like, as much as I like the Dark God stuff, it also felt like 8 more pages of exposition. You know what I mean? It's like a whole other thing to explain that was a real...
Now, here we are, and we're deep into extended territory here.
Yeah.
Because, and I'm going to say it again, the amazing Chris Gethard, who, if you're a fan of his show, he's so funny. But Chris, I just make a creep in all our movies. He was a creep in the Heat.
And in the Heat, he's listed in the credits as himself.
Oh yeah, that's right.
It was his idea.
Oh, I should have. Oh, you know what? I'm trying to think if we did that in this.
Because I don't know, because the scene's not in, so I don't know if he's in the credits, right?
They had to amend the credits for the extended, I believe.
Oh.
I think. I don't know. Don't quote me on that.
Yeah.
But yeah, but he's so great. He really took a punch from Kristen in one of the takes.
He said she sent him flowers or something later, which is really sweet.
But
he forgot about this.
I know.
I'll pass it out.
I love this. I love this scene. Makes me laugh. Kate's so funny with the dog, and then.
It's devastating. Oh, look, you're on TV.
We spoke to Dr. Harold Fillmore, physics department chair.
Here's the thing, Katie Dippold. When you're putting a movie together for a theater full of people sitting together to watch, sometimes things that go a little longer hurt the general tone and energy in a theater, so that people start to get out of sync with their laughs.
Yeah.
But when you're doing something like this for home video, you can put the longer stuff back in, the connective tissue, and people will kind of watch it differently, I find, because they're not so much clocking like the energy in the room around them, and if people are laughing and people aren't. I don't know. It's a very bizarre thing. Like when you have a group of people together, you got to keep things moving along. But I always kind of missed this whole thing of like how it's getting to her that she's legitimate. She's wanted legitimacy her whole life, and she finally has it, but they get denied, and then she's now gets really dragged through the mud.
Yeah.
And the difference between her and Abby, who Abby just cares about the work and cares about their friendship, and I miss this, so I'm glad it's an extended.
Yeah.
Thought they would have been happy about that.
This was like a half reshoot here because this scene we always had, but then it was the drawings in the book. This is all as we had it, but then we kind of felt like people might not be putting the math together quite as much, that this was really Rowan's plan. So some of this stuff was new. This is a new insert we did of like, okay, so you go, okay, I see that he was going to electrocute himself. He was going to get bigger, and then we just made these drawings a little clearer for the audience to see that he was going to become giant. Even made the teeth look like Rowan's teeth will look in the third act. Now here we are back at headquarters. What was your inspiration when you were working on this scene, my friend?
I feel like there was a time when we were going for it to be like the scariest thing possible.
Yeah.
And then so like we talked about like, you know, just it being a while before they noticed she was possessed, like her just like walking back and forth in the background and stuff like that.
Yeah.
My favorite thing coming up is when Patty and Holtzman come back from getting cheesesteaks. There are also a lot of different versions of the stuff they were talking about and joking around about, and there's different songs Kate sang to the door. Oh, yeah. For some reason, I just remember that just providing so much material that you could only do one because of the shot.
Well, and you were the one who asked me to keep that in.
I know. There's another song now. There's a different song where she's like...
no, there's not.
Are you sure?
I'm guarantee it.
Did I make up a song in my head?
You made up a song.
Oh my God.
It's brilliant, really. Mind devices energize spectral entities.
This is also part of the extended.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Which I always loved this too. This always made me very happy.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was just fun having slime coming out and making poor Melissa have to vomit.
Yeah, that was a crazy day. She had like all these tubes and...
Oh yeah, we had to do so much paint out on this, and but she really pulled it off.
And we had to poison her, so green slime came out of her body.
Yeah, exactly. We had to make her eat all this slime.
Violently ill.
It's a lot of Pert Plus we used. No, because I remember you thought there were multiple versions. That's the only time she sang that song, and we actually had her in ADR redo it, but it was never as magical as it was that first time she sang that, Abby, come and get your sandwich. Come and get your sandwich, please.
This is the moment where I've learned that I've lost my mind.
I mean, we looked, I swear, and I don't think there was another song.
That's so funny.
But it's I'm so glad you put it back in, because it's, I remember you said you heard it and it was stuck in your head the rest of the shoot, right?
Yeah. Kate is a great singer.
Yeah.
And there she goes.
Come and get your sandwich, please. But we had to, we had her weird footsteps on it and stuff that were out of sync, so we had to do all this processing to make it work. But it worked. So there you go.
You okay?
Do you remember when she was just like, did I totally make this up when she was like, Abby, or something? It's onions and cheese, with onions and cheese.
Oh, really?
With onions and cheese. Just sound familiar? I may have
completely
lost my mind.
No, you might not have. Maybe she did in rehearsal, maybe?
Maybe that's it. God damn it. That was it.
See, that's why I don't like to do rehearsals. That's why I always try to shoot the rehearsals, because something magical happens. No, I know. That's one of my biggest rules is I don't rehearse, because I've had so many times, like, the camera says, oh, can we do it once and make sure we get the move right? And then, like, it's magical and everybody's great. And then, like, we didn't tape that, right? Like, oh, no. It's like, God damn it. And then it never happens again.
Yeah.
So that might have been lost to
the
gods.
Smart.
The gods of non-filming. Well, I'm sorry. But you remember it, so sing it one more time.
Okay. Wait. I'm trying to think. Wait, how does it start? I just remember this. Abby, got something for you with onions and cheese. With onions and cheese. That's all I remember.
Well done. Well done. Everyone, that's the new anthem. Well, I wish we had that. I'm sorry. So I always thought you were talking about the Abby. Come and get your sandwich. Come and get your sandwich.
That's the
please.
joy of Kate McKinnon, is that you can debate the most ridiculous things.
Exactly.
And having to be like, no, that thing Kate did when she was like, Abby, come and get
That moment in life that has never happened in the history of mankind. That group of words that were never uttered.
Yeah, you don't remember that thing when she was like, what? Some crazy sound.
Oh.
Ow, that's gonna leave a mark.
The power of pain compels him.
Good old Leslie Jones. That makes me laugh. We work so hard. Every time we do that, the slap has to be really, really loud for that joke to be funny. I feel. If you don't like the joke, there's nothing worse than like talking about why a joke's funny and then people at home are going like, well, that joke sucks. But that's the power of comedy.
Yeah,
you know?
it is.
We think it's funny. If you don't, then, well, sorry. You've already invested too much time in this commentary
Still
track.
here.
Just still here. Boy, you hate us that much that you're still listening. Just to find things against us.
Yeah, he does.
We had to do a head replacement there of Chris because our amazing stunt double, amazing, take a shot, didn't look anything like Chris.
Right.
And his hair was super stiff, so it like kept lifting up like a beret on his head.
This scene we added later in the script process, I remember. I
Oh,
just remember
yeah.
us getting close to shooting when we did this.
But this scene, this to me is just unbridled wig.
Mm-hmm.
She's so funny in these moments of just, it's physical comedy and but it's emotionally real.
Yeah.
Just the way that she kind of like points up at the sky here, and this just makes me laugh. That. We had fun with all the, there's a longer version of this scene that always made me laugh where the mayor kept trying to make jokes and he'd get laughs, but then he stopped getting laughs.
Oh, right. Yeah, he kept mugging to the crowd behind him.
But then he'd make a joke and they wouldn't. He'd go, tough room.
He looked pissed.
I don't know. That's my kind of undercutting I like.
Please don't be like the mayor in Jaws.
And never compare me to the Jaws mayor. Never!
Please, you have to get everyone. You're in danger. Everyone in the city.
That took way too long.
What are you doing? Oh my! Get off of me! You're friendly. You have to listen to me. Get out of the city! Get out of the city! They're coming. Don't you understand? These ghosts kill people.
I love this shot. This was our second unit team went out and got that shot when we were still shooting. They came to New York and did that. And I love that they come in and get the Ecto 2 license plate, because when we were shooting with Chris the other day, I was like, oh, I didn't get an insert of the Ecto 2 license plate. And they sent us that bit of gold. So. Sam Richardson, by the way.
Oh, I love Sam Richardson.
He's the greatest.
Here's a fun fact. I was behind the monitors and didn't know this stunt was happening. And then I saw Chris lift the stunt guy in the air like that, and he fall down like he broke his back. And I loudly went, oh my God! Thought something went terribly wrong.
Good.
Chris lost his mind.
He's very temperamental, that man. This scene we originally had scored with Peer Gynt.
Oh, yes.
Yes, which was very funny. It really made me laugh. It was very Bugs Bunny-ish.
Yeah.
But it lost a little bit of energy.
That's why he's doing that thing with his hands, actually.
See,
because,
exactly. He was conducting that.
Mm-hmm.
I think in our alternate scenes, I think we might have restored that.
Oh,
so, yeah, you can see it somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
But Teddy Shapiro, his score for this movie, he should be commended. This is a tough. These kind of movies are tough to score because you don't want to do a comedy score, because if you do, it's like, hey, look goofy and wacky we are. And Teddy and I worked for the first time together on Spy, and that was another hard score because we wanted to make sure, like, play it dead serious, like this is a real spy movie.
Mm-hmm.
But I love this score in here in particular. This got stuck in my head so long when we were doing post or doing the final sound mix, because I just think it's it's just great the way it kind of lifts to this visual here. And here's the thing, my friend. You make these movies and then, like, the critics are always at some point they're like, oh, it always devolves into just CG and mayhem in the third act. But first of all, you can't make a big movie and not have a big third act.
Right.
And secondly, I don't know, I feel like I like how this escalates, and our effects are super cool in here, but fun, and just the way that this kind of just goes up, and the stakes get high.
Yep.
I don't know. I don't know. It's kind of a... Oh, that's Steve Bannis, my friend Steve Bannis. There's Milana, also from Other Space. And this is from the extended, and that's Lenny Clark. Boston's own Lenny Clark. That I let play a Boston ghost.
I remember the Flasher ghost in the script getting pushed back in notes, like it would be offensive, and I kept thinking, like, what? It's not like a naked man's actual genitalia.
I'll tell you exactly what happened in there. There was a... Oh, first, let's shout out to Dan Aykroyd, who we couldn't love more, who's the greatest guy in the world.
Nicest, kindest,
so supportive,
awesome, always excited. When we shot, this night was like one of my favorite, most magical nights. Just having him on set, that was what a wonderful, wonderful man.
Yeah, so great. But here's what happened with the Flasher Ghost: was there was preliminary art done by our amazing artists. Take a shot, and they drew versions of the Flasher that had him with an enormous, like, demon mouth and a tongue coming out right where his
now
junk
I
is.
Understand.
and higher ups at the studio saw that.
Oh my God!
But to me, it was always like, well, no, of course we're not going to do that. We're not monsters. We know the kids are going to watch this movie, but that became the big bone of contention because everybody thought we were going to have him with this giant.
I never knew
ghost
that.
Penis. Yeah,
and I always wondered, why are they giving so much pushback? And now it's like, oh, that's what you thought. That's fair enough.
Yeah, there you go. But we never intended to do that, everyone. So, and then here's our friend Slimer.
Slimer.
And Slimer was an actual puppet on the set. We had a fully articulated, great puppet just for the actors to act against. But then when we got into post, it's like, okay, we'll fully CG him just so we can give more emotion for a modern day audience. I personally would have liked to use the puppet. But,
yeah, Slimer. We talked about so much of whether to bring him back, and if so, how. And yeah.
Would you remember the original scene we meet from the script? We actually saw the origins of Slimer.
Oh, that's right. That it was the big chubby naked.
It was a gangster who
in the Rainbow Room?
killed a guy in the Rainbow Room. He was a gangster from the 20s who killed a waiter because they were closing the restaurant. He didn't get his food.
Wouldn't serve him late. Yeah, that's right.
And then they went in the kitchen, and there was the ghost of this gangster who then, when they're trying to get the power right on their proton packs, they blew his legs off, and then they turned green, and he got all blobby, and they turned into Slimer.
Yes, that's right.
There you go. Oh, now the origin on this scene is we were doing research on old New York and found these pictures of the Macy's Thanksgiving Parade, and all these balloons are based on, some of them are the actual design of the original balloons from the Macy's Parade, which are the creepiest things we've ever seen in our life.
Yeah.
Go on the internet, just type in old Macy's parade balloons, and you will see these exact balloons there. So had to get them in. And I love this. I think well, there you go.
Yeah.
Another friend from the original movie.
And this, I remember, this Stay Puft stressed us out the most because it felt like if we didn't deal with him in some way, we didn't want people to be expecting him up until the very end of the movie. So this let us just give a shout out, but then go somewhere else.
Well, that was the thing. This was a hard balance to get, and some people think we did too much. Other people think we got it just right. I mean, I know every audience I've sat in, people are just delighted every time one of the original things from the original movie pop up.
Yeah.
But it just it is that thing of like, if you start going, oh, we're going to show Slimer, then you're like, well, you kind of have to show Stay Puft. It becomes a slippery slope.
Yeah.
But I like how we handled it.
I know. It's like, it's a, I don't know. It's just the things that we always talked about, just speaking to the things that we as fans want to see.
Yeah.
And so, I don't know. At the end of the day, I feel better about having shout-outs than I would have. It would have felt really bad feeling like we didn't celebrate those things we loved or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the two risks to take.
No, I'm with you. Here, I'm going to say it. Folks, some of you didn't like that we did that. We liked it. We're very happy. We're not going to back down. We're very pleased with our movie. There we go. And you can write mean stuff about us now.
Oh, extended cut.
Yes, extended cut, which this was in the theatrical, this is not in. This is the hardest thing I've ever had to cut out of a movie.
Yeah.
Was Chris Hemsworth dancing. Look how great it looks, too, with all the disco lights and all the disco smoke coming out. So I'm so glad this is in the extended. But it was a hard one because it was hard to transition out of this because of the Times Square fight.
Right.
It was starting to feel episodic, but Chris is so great. So this, I'm very proud of this whole sequence. But this was went through a lot of different versions and machinations. My personal favorite version of this was always, we originally cut this to AC/DC's "Shoot to Thrill,"
Right.
and we used the entire song, so it was like a 4-minute plus version of the song of the scene. But the stunt work is so crazy amazing, and it was this was a difficult scene to put together because we originally had it where they were all surrounded. There was all these ghosts from all different eras that were surrounding, kind of watching the fight go on, but then there were main fighters that came out and fought. But when we did it with test audiences before we had our special effects in, everybody was very confused about why all the other ghosts were standing there, why they wouldn't all come running in. And to us, it was just like those weren't the badass ghosts. They were just there, and there was fighter ghosts that came in to do it. But so we ended up having to add all the smoke so that you kind of know that there's ghosts in there, but they kind of come in and out of there. But the sad thing is and Jeff Curlin and his team just did the most amazing costume work for those hundreds of ghost extras from all different eras and stuff. So we had to do that, and then we also had to just cut it down because it was too long of a fight scene, even though Walter Garcia, who is truly amazing, drink a whole bottle because Walter's the greatest, and his stunt team are so amazing. But it was too long, but mostly because we couldn't afford to do all these special effects to make it longer. Oh, that car that she fell on, do you know where that car's from?
No.
That was Melissa's car from The Heat.
Oh my God,
that's
crazy.
Mullen's car from The Heat, yeah. And we didn't even order it up. But just since we shot in Boston again, we wanted an old car. Wow. They rolled that out. I was like, wait, that's Mullen's car.
That's insane.
Isn't that wild? So
it's fun.
It's all part of the Fig Dippled cinematic universe. It's going to be getting its sequel. That car.
Yes.
Is going to get it'll be like the Suicide Squad of this.
This was a fun day to walk by craft services with all these extras in these ghost costumes.
Yeah.
Just all standing around sipping coffee.
That's right, with their LED lights on. No, it looked like an old-timey version of like when you see a hot movie about Hollywood when there's like, the back lot and there's an astronaut walking around and a Centurion. That's what it felt like in this because we really did have people dressed in all these.
This is one of my favorite moments to see. It's very well done.
We are very proud of
you.
This. Well,
Not
no. Walter and his team, and this was such a team effort, but this makes me so happy, this scene that Holtzman goes on this run, and the response we've had from audiences, and especially girls and women, to just how badass Holtzman is in this moment.
Yeah.
It chokes me up every time I see it, and it was so fun to see it with audiences because they would just cheer at the end of it. So.
Yeah.
It was nice. We're patting ourselves on the back, everyone. And if you didn't like the movie, well, look, you've already wasted. Look how far into this commentary track you are now.
Well, look who's still here.
Who wins now?
It appears I did.
Pete Travers and his special effects team, which we had at least five different effects houses all over the world doing various sequences and shots and effects and versions of effects and elements of the effects for us throughout this movie, and I'm just very proud of it.
The FX team, Pete's amazing. Man.
Yeah, and it's just that car driving by, that was actually a digital car because we had a stunt car that drove and had all the stunt people on it, but it wasn't the Ecto because the Ecto wouldn't go as fast as we needed it to, and they couldn't do stuff with it, so there's just my favorite kind of effects are effects that you don't know are effects.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously the ghosts and stuff, those are effects, and they look great.
Huh, I didn't.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so sorry. But Santa Claus exists, so don't worry. I love that joke.
God. It feels like this land is after me, personally. That's all I'm saying.
This might be a crazy hunch, but I think he's got that machine up and running again.
This whole section is also one of my favorite of Kate's. Like, again, her improvising, singing, like, come out wherever you are.
Yeah.
I feel like she's just awesome.
Yeah, we have on the extras, we have all her outtakes, and she did so many extra jokes in this section. It was crazy.
We, for a long time, had them going up to the roof.
Yes.
And then up an elevator. And then I remember you always wanted to have them fall off the Chrysler building.
Yeah, we had a whole
like
thing.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. We had a whole thing with the window washing platform.
Oh, my God.
You know, they were plummeting, and then they used their proton beams to stop themselves.
Yes.
Brian Baumgartner.
Oh, yeah.
Extended cut. And my favorite, who I think they should get their own spin-off, are the chairs. Which when we were shooting, because they were all on little remote control things, and they just looked so funny when they were moving in formation.
Yes.
There's not a lot of it left in here because we had to cut this shorter, but it made me laugh.
They're like Pixar characters.
They're our minions.
Yes, they're...
It was fun making Chris float in this. Well, Chris has done so many Marvel movies as Thor and stuff. He was just like, yeah, okay, I'm in a harness now. Okay, yeah, I'm hanging on wires. Okay. Like, he just fully embraced it and was very cool about it. I love the Peter Pan joke. Some people don't. I personally, it makes me laugh because it's so stupid. I love stupid jokes. I'm high and low, Katie.
Yeah, no, same here. Same here.
Yeah, we like highbrow, but we're not afraid of a fart joke.
Yeah, no. We're not at all. That's her. I love that so much.
That joke cost several $1,000s.
Is that true? Is that a real song?
Yeah, that's from is it from? Wait, what's it from? It's from some Disney movie.
Really?
Yeah, I can't sing it because we'd have to pay the rights again.
Oh my God! I guess Sandwich Time isn't a real song.
No, so you can sing that all you want. Although Kate's probably making a few shekels off of that, so that's good. Now this went through several machinations of how to do this.
Yes.
Your original version of this was clip art cartoon ghost.
Yes, the sentiment being like, if we coming up with any new specific ghosts felt like it would never feel Stay Puft. So then it felt like, what about like a riff off a classic ghost? And then you guys added the logo, really making it the Ghostbusters logo.
But yeah, between that though, is we just designed sort of like a cute ghost,
right?
But then it became kind of like, well, again, we're introducing something we don't know, and then it was like, oh wait, if we use the Moogly, that's as he's known, the ghost in the actual logo, then that could be kind of fun. So,
yeah.
I don't know. I'm actually kind of proud of that. And some people took issue with it, but I think it's cool. I love this effect. That's so cool.
Yeah.
Just what you can do with effects now to make, because my whole thing to Pete and the team was like, make it look like we shot this with models if you can. So this is all obviously CG, but it's just the way they can make the textures of cloth and everything now. I don't know. I think it's cool.
I think
this shot's big. That was I just always liked the idea of him getting so big that he comes up through the middle of a building and then explodes out. And it's funny having all this 70s iconography around. It's all pretty accurate to what was around that area at the time. Jeff Sage and his team really, and the effects guys too, just really research that.
Oh, so sorry I cut you off. I like imagining that giant thing as a real actor that came to set and was just,
Yeah, he took the head off and he would smoke cigarettes outside between takes. Well, that's I love that when you see from the original movies, you see the, how they did it with the models and the guy in the Stay Puft costume. I think that's really cool. Now here we are in extended territory.
Oh,
we actually crossed the streams.
Yes,
it's back.
That's right. I forgot about this.
Yeah, because that was a hard decision to take the crossing the streams out of our theatrical version, but it was just something that it was giving us a double thing at the portal when they go back, which I actually like. I'm actually really happy with this and kind of prefer this version, I would say, extended to the one we did theatrically, even though I like the one in theatrical. But I just like that they tried the crossing stream and then it didn't work.
Right.
Because it kind of moved us past the old movie. We got our tip to the old movie, but then
Yes, but then go another step.
yeah,
Mm.
and then then we got to finish all the effects for it because the studio was nice enough to pay for it for the extended. But I just kind of love the way this looks, especially the way that they have all the lightning arcing all over the place when you go to this wide shot. See how it's like popping all over this place. I just love the electricity aspect of all this.
Yeah.
The portal's too strong. We still don't have enough power to reverse it.
All digital. That car is all digital. We actually shot the stunt car, but it was against green screen. It was a different car, so these two inserts were done right when we were just finishing the movie. We literally drove around the Sony lot, because we realized we needed an insert of the canisters on top of the car. So that's very much last minute. So enjoy that when you watch this movie. All the things we do last minute. Oh, and Lady Slimer is voiced by Robin Shelby, who was Slimer in Ghostbusters 2. Wore the costume and voiced him. So,
okay, yes.
So Robin came in and was kind enough to be Lady Slimer for us. This is our tribute to Die Hard 2.
Oh, right.
Because why would you not?
Right. Yeah.
He's too strong. We can't let the portal close with him still here.
Controversial shooting Rowan in the nuts.
That I have seen a lot about that.
There has been a lot written about that. Upset a lot of men. But again, I'm unapologetically. Katie Dibble had nothing to do with that too. I will exonerate you from that.
I thank you for saying that, because I can't tell you how many things I see that's assuming me, the woman, Katie Dipple, trying to get one back to the men. And I'm
Let it be known right here. That was my decision.
That's very kind.
Katie got her revenge on men in The Heat when we shot Taron Killam in the nuts twice.
But I didn't actually do it before, that whole bit.
Right.
So
once again, your record is clean.
I saw a thing where someone was like, is she going to do that in every movie? And I wanted so much to write back and be like, actually, all men, so you know. And then...
didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
But strangely, Katie's next movie is called Nut Shooters.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, but I feel like it's different. You know what I mean?
It is. It's more. It's a drama.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
It really requires a lot of thought. I love this sequence. This was this was additional photographer we did.
Yeah, we always had that she was going to jump in the portal after Abby, but we didn't actually show it.
Right.
And then we later added actually seeing inside.
Well, because what happens was in all our test screenings, people just could not get their heads around the fact that they just popped back out. It was probably our fault. I don't know. I tried everything to clear it up. We had things where she's like, you see her foot pounding on the bottom of the floor, and they still come out. Then she's like, "I pulled the rope, Abby," and still people are like, "How'd they get out?" It's like, "Oh my God!" So
damn it, we're gonna go inside.
We're going inside, but I'm glad we did, because actually I think I love the way this looks,
no, cool.
And Pete and his team really came up with some great visuals here.
Yeah.
And anything I do to preserve Kate and Leslie's excited faces when they see their friends popped out, that just makes me choke up every time, because they're so good.
Yeah, they're great.
This was possibly the hottest day in the history of mankind. And all these poor background artists who had to dress in those hot costumes, I'd like to give a shout out to each and every one of them, because it was miserable. I mean, I cannot tell you how hot and humid it was that day. And these guys and ladies were all dressed up in, all this gear.
Yeah.
So... God bless you.
Mm-hmm.
We all sweat our asses off that day.
I really love Leslie in this scene. This whole cast is really great.
I mean, now's a good chance to just say how fantastic this cast, everybody. I mean, the four ladies, and Chris, but everybody from top to bottom just really pitched in, and it's
whole thing whenever I make a movie is I don't want to waste any role, even if it's one line, on somebody who's not great. And we have, between Katie and I, we just know so many funny people who come in and, just do their greatest job they can do, even if it's for a few hours, and just bring so much inventiveness to it. And it's exciting, to put funny people on the screen. And
No, you've always been amazing at me. I don't know. I just mumbled nothing, but like I love the small castings.
Thank you.
So
And you gave us
much.
another chance to take a shot because you said amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you, Katie. I'm running that joke into the ground, by the way.
Just do it 30 more times.
Yeah.
And then it comes back.
It comes back. It's funny again. Once again, it's like Homer stepping on the rake. If you're not a Simpsons fan or a comedy fan,
then
look
we
that
have
one up.
lost you.
Yes. Because he steps on the rake so many times, it goes beyond a repeat to be funny. Hey, look, it's Greg Kelly and Rosanna Scotto. They're from Fox News here in New York, and I love them both. They're very nice to do that for us. And there's Pat Kiernan. So this is it's all New York morning shows.
You see Steve Higgins' son
Yes.
up here in the background, not the other.
John Higgins, there he is. Giving a Baba Booey because I'm a big Howard Stern fan.
That's right.
So had to do that. And there's our friend, supporter, the greatest. I will say it again. He's amazing. Al Roker, who has been so supportive of us from day one. He came to the set, and he's the greatest. Al, we love you.
Keep fiddling with it. I think it looks nice.
Coming up, Kate's speech. If I remember correctly, she added a lot on the top about the study of physics, right?
Yeah.
Did you
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's so great about Kate is, unbeknownst to us, she's like a total science head, and she knows electronics. I mean, she was tearing into those circuit boards and rewiring them and stuff. So that was one of the happy accident, because you go, oh, I didn't know you were actually into this.
Yeah, I remember when she came up to me on set with something written on a piece of paper, and she's like, "What about this for an alt?" And it was all like science. I was like, "What?"
Yeah, I know. Yeah, this was so great. The body's emotion, and she was. She's the best. I love Leslie's take there. That just makes me laugh. Oh God, I love this cast. I said it. We just said it, but I can say it again.
It was such a roller coaster experience and so hard, but like the cast was like the easiest.
Yeah.
Yeah,
which that's. That makes me laugh so hard. That throat clear, which that's just classic. That's an undercut right there.
Oh yeah.
That's the very definition of an undercut.
Yep.
Make a sad speech and then clear your throat loudly. Yeah. We had so many outtakes. Remember, had all this stuff with Cecily about she eats 2 chickens, but she eats in the bathtub.
Oh, that's right.
When you have Cecily and all these other funny people on set, anything goes. It all happens. Now, we were already in front of this location earlier in the film, but I didn't get to say this is one of the few days the only day we shot with the cast in New York City, and it was very, very crazy because we were just inundated with people who wanted to watch, and the paparazzi.
Yep.
Which New York paparazzi is different than any you'd ever see. Ernie Hudson, truly amazing. But they will come onto the set, and the cops won't stop them, and they can just literally come up into the faces of the actors in the middle of a take and just take their pictures, and they're allowed to be there technically, but it's terrible, so it makes it very hard to shoot.
That was one of my favorite days shooting, and but then also seeing how impossible it would have been to do it.
Yeah, because we were so sad
New
we didn't get to shoot in New York, and you go like, we would never have made it because it just Ghostbusters shooting in actual New York is tough.
Yeah.
Benny, don't get weird on me.
We had a whole sequence. All this stuff in the end credits here was actually just a long sequence that we had at the end of the movie, and then we went to credits. But it just, when we were putting it together, felt like we kind of went one scene too far. So I was really happy that we were able to kind of break this up into the end credits.
Yeah.
It worked out well.
Mm-hmm.
And shout out to the Title House Plucky, who they've designed the last 3 end credit scenes for my last 3 movies, for The Heat, Spy, and this.
Because my thing to them is always like, make the end credits really fun. Because there's nothing I hate more than when you flipping around on cable and you come into the end credits of a movie and it's just like, white credits on black crawling along and there's some song and, it's like, as a filmmaker, I don't want to waste a frame.
Don't.
And so let's have fun from beginning to end.
Beginning to end.
There you go.
Yeah.
See? And here we are. Chris. Interesting thing about that is we didn't have Chris for this scene, so we shot his insert of moving past him on a set that we built, just one wall set of him doing all the different things, and then we had Kristen and Melissa on the actual set weeks later reacting to him, but he wasn't really there.
That's right.
The magic of movie making.
Good, really good.
And then nice little shout out to Michigan here, which was I think this was a K-Dad lib too.
Yeah.
Which I wish I could take claim for because I am from Michigan, but the fact that I put it in the movie, that means I'll take credit for it. Sorry, Lansing.
Sorry, Lansing.
Well, so what did we learn, Katie Dipple, now that we're in the end credits here? To reboot or not to reboot?
I know.
I'm proud of the film. We've said this before. We got to do a lot of fun stuff.
Yeah.
And we brought new generation their own Ghostbusters. So there you go.
I want to give a shout out to the originals.
Yep.
They were awesome and supportive and lovely. And Sigourney Weaver, when she was, God, her day was amazing. I don't know. I love all these people so much, and I'm so grateful to how awesome they were to us.
Yeah, they were so supportive. Everybody from top to bottom.
Yeah.
And, and Ivan was always there with, helping out and giving us guidance. And it was really meant a lot to have everybody from the original movie involved with this. It was really such kind of a love letter to them from us, and then their love letter back to us was the fact that they were just so supportive and involved, and yet gave us our space and let us do our thing and let us kind of make it our own. And I'm just really, really honored that we got to work with them.
Yeah.
And look at right on cue, and the movie's over. But now we've got a good 7 to 8 minutes of end credits to
talk about the Wang Theater.
Yes, the Wang Theater was first started by the Wang family. Look it up on the internet because if you win in Boston, be sure to visit the Wang Theater. But because the theatrical version of the movie we cut out Chris's dance number, even though it's restored into the extended. If you're watching the extended, you just saw that. If not, but Chris did so many funny dance moves, it almost felt funnier to be able to use way more of it in the end credits.
Yeah.
And so we did. And see the choreography of Stephen Twitch Boss, who is so great. He did he's just choreographer extraordinaire. I did a promo for the Oscars when Ellen hosted, and he choreographed that because he works with Ellen all the time, and we became friends there, and really fun to work with him. And
and watching him to the side on set with Chris practicing this was always a real treat.
Yeah. Well, Chris worked so hard on this. The entire time he was with us, he was learning the dance, and so every time I'd look, like when he'd be waiting in the wings to kind of do his part in whatever scene it was, he'd be practicing his dance moves. And it was so sweet because he really worked hard and he was really nervous about it. And then look at it, he's amazing. There's nothing the guy can't do. It's very frustrating, actually.
Yeah.
To be that good looking, that funny, and he can dance. And he can sing, too. He sang once on the set. And it was.
Did he?
Yeah, just when he was talking to Melissa, and Melissa stopped him. She goes, no, don't. If you are a talented singer, too, then I'm just going to have to give up. Oh, this Mark Ronson produced this song, wrote and produced this song for us that Passion Pit also did their thing on, and I love it. I love all the. I got to give a shout out to Erica Weiss, who is our amazing music supervisor, who just put together so much
fun music for us and brings in songs we wouldn't have thought of. And but what's fun about this end credits is that we kind of commissioned these songs because we're dying to work with Mark Ronson, and he came on board to do. Originally, he was going to do a version of the Ghostbusters theme, but then kind of wanted to do an original thing, which I'm so glad he did because I think the song's really, really fun. Oh, now coming up are these great pictures of Chris that was really funny because we wanted to have that thing where he had his headshots, and I forget whose idea was to have him shirtless. I feel like it was Chris's idea.
Probably.
I don't think any of us would have the nerve to tell him to ask him to take his shirt off. But then we did this little photo shoot with Hopper Stone, our on-set photographer, and then back there with and it was just, we had all these stupid props, and just Chris was so hilarious of just like, oh, okay, now be a Cub reporter, and he put like a tie and had a notepad, but no shirt on, and a doctor and all that. So
he was a great sport.
He's a great sport. He did things we didn't think he would do.
Mm-hmm.
And now here's Al King with an original song.
Is there anything going back that you missed the most or wish you had put in the movie?
Oh, that we had to cut out?
Yeah.
Well, the dance number was the one that was the hardest one to take out,
right,
which is in the extended. But there's just so many character moments. The first cut of this movie, you saw it, was 3.5 hours long. Yes. and I there's not a lot of stuff I go like, oh, we lost that. That's a great thing about DVDs and now just extra content over streaming or whatever, however you get it delivered to you, is that it used to be in the old days you'd have things that you just were so funny that you didn't want to lose, but you knew if you didn't put them in the movie that they were gone forever. But now that you can do extras, it's better for filmmaking, because then we filmmakers don't go like, we're going to keep that in at all costs. And so you go like, okay, we'll put in the extra materials or even the extended cut or whatever. So I usually end a movie kind of feeling like, yeah, I feel like we did everything we wanted to. I don't even call the extended like my director's cut. It's like the theatrical version is my director's cut. There's just stuff in the extended that I like that, I wanted to put in.
Right. You have the dedication coming up to Harold Ramis, which I'm so happy you did that.
Yeah, Harold was the greatest. I was honored to get to know him because I first met him through, he was directing on The Office when I was directing there, but then also he was friends with Lee and Jean because they did Year One together, and they took me out to dinner with Harold one night, and to get to know Harold and to talk to him, one of my comedy directing and performing icons, was so great. But he was the nicest man, and I ran into him a bunch of times after that at various things, and always so lovely. And just to get to do this and to dedicate it to him and get to know his family and Erica and all that, it really means a lot to me. And I feel like Harold, Erica said that he would have loved this film, so that meant a lot.
That's really nice.
Yeah.
That's another thing that's really inspiring about the original team, is like just such amazing geniuses, but also really nice people.
Yeah.
You can be in comedy and be a nice person too.
Yeah,
it's a very inspiring thing.
I know, exactly. But what I love about comedy is, in general, when I was in the stand-up world, sometimes stand-ups can get a little bit tough to deal with, but in general, I find people in comedy tend to be pretty cool because, you have to be such a team player, and you're kind of only as good as the people around you, and you can, and I find that they like to set each other up as much as they like to be funny themselves, and, especially like our cast are so good at that.
Yeah.
Well, a quick story about this music that's playing right now. This is a band called No Small Children they're 3 school teachers, and they know our composer, Teddy Shapiro, and they did this version and gave it to him like, hey, just give it to him. And we played it, Erica and I played it, we're like, it's so awesome that we put it in the movie. So,
I didn't know that. That's great.
Yeah, it's really cool to have them in here.
What is being moved from?
I think that is some Sony thing, to be quite honest. I had nothing to do with that. I know it came up first, and I was like, wow, that's interesting. Did we write that? No, we didn't. I wish Slimer would have bit a mouthful out of the Columbia word. I know. It's my only regret.
Yeah.
That's it.
throw it in the bin.
That exterior was the last shot that we took, right?
Yep, that was it.
I remember it was a really wonderful, just standing outside, everyone quietly just over.
But remember what we were doing? We were waiting for the streetlights to come on.
Yes,
We
yes.
just sat there waiting and waiting. It was very zen, very peaceful.
Yes.
What is it? Did you get something?
Yeah, I heard something really weird. What's Zool?
Well, thanks, everybody. Thanks, Katie.
Thank you.
We did it.
Thank everyone.
Thanks for listening.